Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
I'd like to make note, Mr. Green, that we have a quorum. Everyone's attended. All right, so we are at the public forum, and there's been two speaker requests turned in. And do you want to speak now or wait till the item on the agenda?
I'll speak now.
Okay. All right, so Ryan Lundeen, if you wouldn't mind, state your address, please, sir. And
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. My name is Ryan Lundeen. I'm at 709 College Street. Just wanted to say two things. One, I wanted to commend our Public Works Department. As you all could probably see, I lost a tree during Hurricane Beryl, fell across Eugenia Street. And right after the hurricane wall passed, the Public Works team was out there. They cleared the tree, moved it to the street, and the next day it was gone.
Good.
And Mike's guys were professional, courteous, and I loved working with them. I was helping them too. I just wanted to give that department kind of a run of applause on that. So the second thing I wanted to talk about was, I think I got the agenda item right, it's number 6 on the Villages of Montgomery development. It's at the end of College Street and the end of Caroline Street, I believe. And I just have some concerns about the capacity of College Street and Caroline Street. And I don't know how much traffic this development could potentially introduce on those streets. College Street's roughly 16 to 18 feet wide, it's narrow. It already, I think, is at capacity, and also the condition of the road is questionable and if it can handle more traffic. So I don't know if this is something that Catherine and Chris's group can do, where they can do a traffic impact analysis. It sounds like it's more probably on the developer, but I would like to see some type of evaluation done by an engineer on the traffic capacity of College Street and Caroline Street as a result of this development. So that's all I got.
thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate the accolades, too. All right, next up, Mr. Cassidy, please. State your address.
Good evening. My name is Bill Cassidy. I live at 128 Racetrack Lane. I'm here tonight to talk about the video that I sent the mayor and Gary about the drainage issue that we're having on Harley Street. 9 years ago, when I moved into my house on Racetrack Lane in Lake Creek Village, we had the same issue. The water was coming down and hitting a high spot where that manhole cover is, and that drainage ditch, and taking a left-hand turn, all that water going down between those two houses, through my fence, under my fence, in my backyard, and almost flooded my house. Mike came out, Muckaroy, we met, and he dug that ditch out 9 years ago. And I know it was ugly, but we didn't have a problem up until since April, May, moving forward. That ditch now has filled with soot, and now it looks like it did 9 years ago. I sent the video back in May, the water pouring through my fence. I believe you all saw it. And my wife and I were out there pushing the water away from our house then, and another time, and now we did it again tonight. And I got the video. You see how that water's coming down that ditch on Harley Street, where it gets that manhole covered, and it takes a left-hand turn, and there's a river of water that goes down between that house and directly in my backyard. The drainage is not my problem. It's the city. You guys told me you're responsible for the drainage up on Harley Street. So I got to handle not only my yard, which drains really well. I can't handle all that water coming from Harley Street. And once in my house, it's going to flood. And we talked about it, and y'all said you're going to take care of it, but it's going to take time. My wife and I don't have time anymore. And like I said, you've seen that video tonight. Same thing happened. It just washed out all the dirt from my flower beds again, all the mulch. There's no dirt underneath my fence anymore because it's washed it all away. And every time it rains, since May, this has happened. My yard didn't even flood during Harvey. And we had 20 inches of rain, I believe, in about a 12-hour period. So I'm here to ask the city council and maybe Public Works to try to figure out a solution to that drainage up on Harley Street. You've seen the video. I mean, it's just right when it gets to that manhole cover. It comes out of that ditch and heads down between those two houses. Not before, not after. And so I'm just here asking for some help before my wife and I have to clean the water out of our house. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Next on the agenda is the consent agenda. Item number 1, approval of the minutes is written for A, City Council Budget Workshop, 5/16/2024. B, City Council First Regular Meeting, 7/9/2024. C, City Council Capital Improvement Plan Workshop, 7/9/2024. Number 2, accept the 2024 second quarter investment report. 3, approve an escrow agreement between the City of Montgomery and Dunhill Builders LLC for proposed single-family development on 75 acres referred to as the Milago Reserve, development number 2411. Number 4, approve an escrow agreement by and between the City of Montgomery and Dev Point LLC for proposed mixed-use development on 50 acres referred to as the Villages of Montgomery, Dev number 2412. Number 5, authorize the city engineer to complete a utility and economic feasibility study for the proposed Mialaga Reserve development, development number 2411. Number 6, authorize the city engineer to complete a utility and economic feasibility study for the proposed Villages of Montgomery development number 2412. Council, would you like to take these individually or cumulatively?
I'd like to take item 4 individually.
Okay. Is that a motion?
4 and 6.
Or you want to discuss it?
So I'm just looking at here.
Okay.
We make a motion to accept items 1, 2, 3, and 5 in the consent agenda.
It's been moved and seconded that we accept items 1, 2, 3, and 5 on the consent agenda. This motion is debatable, amendable, requires majority vote. It's open for discussion. All those in favor of accepting 1, 2, 3, and 5 as presented, say aye. Aye. Those opposed, say nay. The ayes have it, the motion carries, and we will accept 1, 2, 3, and 5 as presented. Item number 4 on the consent agenda.
So this Villages of Montgomery. Can somebody refresh my memory on this? This doesn't even ring a bell.
Because you haven't seen it yet.
Yeah,
It's
well,
not been presented.
If you
right,
look
so
at
an escrow agreement
page
and a
68,
feasibility study, and we haven't seen it yet?
What page, Catherine?
68, page 68 of your packet is going to show their preliminary land plan, which looks, you're looking for this page right here. Now, you're correct, you have not seen, this has been presented in concept, I believe it was 2 weeks ago, they came and discussed with you.
No,
Is that P and Z, I think?
no.
It was at
It's,
planning and zoning, excuse me.
Planning, so.
That's correct, pardon me. So this is kind of your typical process, is to establish an escrow agreement before the feasibility study is completed. The reason for this is because the developer is responsible for the cost of the feasibility study and any kind of plan reviews, any developer coordination, meetings with us, meetings with staff, with your attorney. Any fees that are generated as a result of the development come out of this escrow account. And so the escrow agreement and account are set up at the beginning of the development. This is the first step in the development process so that the feasibility study can be completed. So the developer will put up their deposit for the feasibility study amount, and then all invoices will be billed against that escrow account, which is why this comes and then the feasibility study.
So what point exactly, when do we get to ask questions? Because typically, just like what Ms. Cox is doing tonight, she's coming before the feasibility study to discuss so we can ask questions.
You actually already done it.
Yeah, we did the feasibility study with that, but
With her, okay.
Yeah.
I thought we were going,
generally we'll do some sort of a proposal ahead of time.
we haven't really discussed this and it's.
So feasibility study is typically the first step in your development process. The developer coming beforehand to ask questions isn't necessarily a requirement, but the feasibility study is something that the city does, and again, the developer pays for it. There's really no reason not to do a feasibility study. We look at it from the city's perspective of your water and sewer and drainage capacity. We look at streets and kind of on a global picture for just that development and how it impacts the city in general. We look at your ad valorem tax revenue and impact fees that are going to be considered in the feasibility study as well. And when we present that to you, that's a great time to ask questions. The developer is usually present whenever the feasibility study is presented. And so between us and the developer, we can answer any questions you have at that time. Authorizing a feasibility study is not a commitment to letting the development go forward. It doesn't allow us to review any plans. It doesn't, really, it's just one step. That's all that's allowed at that time until the feasibility study is completed.
The mixed use, is that part of the property, the parcel?
Yes, so this parcel includes some single family. They're talking about a mixture of alley load and front load lots, some commercial along 105, and then mixed use on the west side, and then detention throughout to accommodate the floodplain.
So actually, this property is going to line up right next to the Cheatham Stewart track that goes all the way down to 105 that we just approved for Tri-Point Homes.
Right on the other side of the creek, yes.
Right, okay.
This is just east of that development.
Catherine, how many entrances, looks like one of the entrances is going to be over by on 105, is that correct?
Yes, the main entrance is that boulevard entrance on 105 that you're seeing, and they're wanting to work with TxDOT to try to see if they can get a left turn lane so that there's not a median right in front of their entrance. So that's intended to be their primary entrance, and as of this land plan, they are proposing to connect to Caroline and College as kind of your secondary accesses.
So the feasibility study will include the fact that we have the infrastructure to support the development?
Correct. So the feasibility study will look at what your current water and sewer infrastructure. It looks at how is it going to drain, where is the floodplain on their site, and what, if any, accommodations would need to be made from a drainage perspective. We look at streets, where are they proposing to connect, and whose roads are they? So we identify that 105 is a TxDOT road, and College and Caroline are city streets. The feasibility study does not include a traffic impact analysis done by us. That is usually the onus of the developer to complete a traffic impact analysis, but we do look at trip generation. So how many in and out is expected from a development of this size, just kind of based on your typical travel patterns, is another thing that we look at with the feasibility study.
And so the drainage that is horrible on College Street as of tonight again, you honestly think that detention pond is going to take care of all that, or that's going to be in your feasibility study that the detention pond is going to take care of that flooding on College?
So with the feasibility study, we're not necessarily saying how big their pond has to be. We're not sizing it. We are not designing it in the feasibility study. What we do is during the plan review stage, they have to provide us a drainage analysis that shows how much water is coming off of their site beforehand for development, so currently, and how much would be leaving after the proposed development is completely finished, including their detention ponds, how much are they going to be releasing from the ponds, etc. And they are not allowed to increase the amount of flow leaving their property. So they have to detain however much additional flow from their development. They have to detain that, and they have to control the release so that it's not greater than it is today.
So, one other thing, we've got a proposal to move the lift station 5, and that's right in between this proposal and the Cheatham track. Is that going to affect that in any way?
The lift station 5, I have not had a chance to look at where this property's sewer would go specifically. That's part of the feasibility study. If it does impact lift station 5, it wouldn't necessarily impact the location of it, but if there's additional flow that goes in there, that'll definitely be brought up in the feasibility study. So we look at what lift stations does any development flow into? Do those lift stations have capacity? We look at the wastewater plant as a whole. Does that have capacity? And any other improvements that are already starting to go on, and how does it impact those?
My last question is, I think the agreement calls for $8,000. Where did that figure come from? Do you know?
We produce that figure. It's based on how much it cost us to produce the feasibility study. And there's also some time in there for developer coordination. So answering questions along the way, working with them, and then after the study is completed, there's usually follow-up questions or follow-up meetings before they're necessarily ready to take the next step to discuss the feasibility study and what all was in it. So that was generated from our office.
So it covers the engineering.
Correct.
Okay. All right, thank you.
And so you think when we get the feasibility study, that the people that own this or are involved in this will be at that meeting?
Yes. I can't say guaranteed, but there's a very high likelihood that they would be there.
You can express that
Yes,
concern.
and whenever we're delivering the study back to the developer, we're expressing the importance of, here's the council meeting where it's going to be presented. It is very strongly recommended that you come and be present to answer any questions. And the developers want to be here to discuss their project with you guys and be able to answer your questions as well.
So their second entrance, and this is probably a question for later, so I guess I'll hold it. The second entrance poses a question later.
Yes, very much so.
So again,
Okay.
authorizing the feasibility study does not commit you to anything, doesn't commit you to the development in general, doesn't commit you to variances, anything like that. It just gives you a snapshot into the impact this development will have on your city. All at the cost of the developer.
Make a motion to approve item number 4 and item number 6.
I second.
I say,
It's been moved and seconded that we approve item number 4 and item number 6. This motion is debatable and amendable, requires majority vote. All those in favor of accepting item 4 and 6, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. The ayes have it, the motion carries, and we will accept item number 4 and number 6 on the consent agenda. Public hearing. The City Council will receive comments from the public on the below listed items only. Speakers will be limited to 3 minutes. Persons wishing to participate during the public hearing portion of the meeting must sign in to participate prior to the meeting being called to order. Item number 7 on your agenda. Hear public comments on the Crime Control and Prevention District proposed crime control plan and budget for fiscal year 2024 to 2025 and fiscal year 2025 to 2026.
There are no speakers, Mayor.
Is 6:19? And at 6:19, we will close public hearing. Regular agenda. Number 8, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Montgomery, Texas, approving the proposed Montgomery Crime Control and Prevention District Crime Control Plan and Budget for fiscal years 2024, 2025, and 2025-2026, providing a repealer, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date.
Anybody from the PD here to present?
There's a police officer back there. I don't know if he's wanting to present.
Need a
I
chief
think he's
here?
keeping us safe.
The chief here?
The chief is out working
Oh, yeah, he's out there.
until 7.
Yeah, past him.
Yeah, it's unfortunate.
You'll do
It's a
great,
question
Julie.
now, because of that budget.
Give it a whirl.
I have a question concerning this one that we went over last night and the crime prevention control budget.
Well, ask your question.
Well, I don't know if Ms. Tilly can answer this, but we'll give it your best shot. So we're looking at a budget for 24, 25, 25, 26, right? Or 25, 26, is that correct? Yeah, 24, 25, 25, 26. Yet, I did see no budget change for 25 in our admin, but our normal budget. And the whole point of the crime district was to offset cost from this budget to the crime district. So I want to understand why there is no offset.
I can write a note on that
Okay.
and find out from chief.
That's my only question, Ms. Tilly.
You guys want to table it and bring it up in the next meeting?
Yes, please.
Okay.
And for the record, we have an emergency out on 1097, so the chief is there. Thank you for filling in.
Stand by 1 second.
They have a timeline.
They do.
And we don't know tonight, he's gonna be in trouble.
Well, he should,
Well, you know it's not.
his promises were to offset that budget. I didn't see one penny come off of our budget, not one
But
cent.
that was, it takes it a year, I thought, so that's why it's here, yeah, it takes a year.
Yeah, but we're talking about
But he's
2025
talking
budget.
about all of it
Yeah.
in the agenda.
Yeah, that's why
So
I'm
if we
confused.
approve.
Yeah.
Mayor,
We approve.
we recommend you table it until the next meeting.
Is
The timeline's okay? 'Cause
Yeah,
we're-
okay.
I guess what we could do is always call an emergency if we
Yeah.
need to.
Yeah, if we need to, we can
Okay.
call.
We have to call the election by the 19th is the deadline, so we'll call the election at the August 13th meeting.
Okay. The budget doesn't have to be passed by a specific date before then, right?
It should.
Well, I mean, we can.
Yeah, and I mean, it was approved by the CCPD, but I guess that board was okay with the budget at that time.
Well, absolutely, because they're okay with the police budget, but the whole point of the
But the-
CCPD was to offset, take stress off the city budget so we have money to fix sewer and water, right? But if he's gonna spend money on both sides of we're gonna burn the candle on both ends, then I'm not signing it.
Okay.
So the main point for that budget to be submitted to city council was within 10 days. So it was submitted to city council within 10 days, but city council has the time to be able
Okay.
to deliberate.
Okay.
the
Tilly,
budget.
do you have, what is the date? Is there a date, so many days before the beginning of the fiscal year, the budget has to be adopted? Do you have that date?
I don't,
That would be my only remaining question. You don't have that list?
I didn't bring it home. I didn't get that list though. If you want me to
Do
bring
you
it
have
home.
it handy?
I do. I have
Maybe we can find it before he can.
I'm assuming since Mike's back, that Chief may be back here shortly. Is Chief on his way back? Mike?
He's right behind me.
Okay, so we can just skip this if we want, and then go to number
bring it
9 and come back?
Go to the
Okay,
next one.
all right.
Do we have
So
to,
we're going to skip
bring it
item
back.
number 8.
do we make
and then-
a motion to skip it?
We don't need to,
Come
yeah,
back.
you can just, yeah,
All right.
announce it. Okay. All right, item number 10 on your agenda, discussion,
None?
9, I was looking at it. Discussion regarding a development agreement for a proposed 86-acre single-family residential project by Morning Cloud Investments, development number 2403.
For Ms. Cox.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mayor, and council members, for pleased to be back here with you. Ben Bridges and Marjorie Cox, we've got the 2 properties along Old Lock Road and Tupman Street under contract. We went through a similar process for an escrow agreement and placed a deposit with a piece of stick in order to get the feasibility study. So all that was done over the last few months, and now we've got the concepts, from the recommendations that you all made to kind of present. And again, I think this is another informal session, and we'll go through a more formal process in August, if this is something that you all would be agreeable in terms of granting variances that we're gonna look for. But I think we met in January and talked in terms of the land that we have under contract and our plans. We're very excited about this opportunity. It's undeveloped acreage right now. There's 1 homestead and then there's agriculture exemptions. So this would be an opportunity to improve that property and it's near the back entrance of the high school, and so there's some opportunity there to be able to create some housing. So some of the input that you all had, we started off, I think, in January with about 55-foot lot size, and you all gave us the input that you felt like there was enough of that density in the community, and we're looking for kind of a larger lot size. So we started off with about 300 plus lots, then we were down to about 250, 260, and other changes came through the feasibility study, so now we're down to about 235 lots, which really is kind of the minimum amount that we can develop in order to make the project work for us. So, and again, it's on Old Dog Road, Huffman Street. Price points would be of the 235 lots, and homes would be 400, low 400s. And then that would bring a tax value into the community of 94 to 105 million. So we would, done the feasibility, we've got a builder, Woods, I think we shared with you before, and they're still very highly interested in the community, and we've got them under kind of a conditional contract, and other builders, as we move forward. So here's the configuration with the 2 tracks on the next slide. And so we're able to combine the 2 properties, and that gives us 2 entrances or 2 access points on the Huffman side and on the Old Auburn Road side. We looked at just developing one or the other tract, and it's just not feasible to do that because we would need the 2 entrances on both of those streets. So we have the Stowe property there in the middle, that very lovely executive home on 4 acres, so we would leave that in place and then sell that off, in the next year or so. But Mr. Stowe has been very gracious to work with us on this, and he would stay for a while until we got through kind of more of the engineering and planning phase, and that they moved elsewhere because there's no reason for them to move until we know that we're able to go forward with the project. So again, we started discussions. We put the properties under contract in December and January, and met with the planning and engineering folks, and then also met with city council in January. Got your feedback, and then we went through the city council for the escrow agreement. WGA was engaged to do that on behalf of the city, to just outline what would be needed in terms of utilities, if there's utilities capacity, street size, lot width, and those things. So those are the items. So we looked in terms of, potentially in order to be able to maximize the use of the density of the property, 65-foot lots. The zoning is the 75s and 9,000 square feet. We're looking in terms of looking for requests for variance of 65 by 120 lots, or 7,800 square feet. So that would be another variance. And then the side yard setback, I know it was important to be able to have at least 15 feet between homes, so we would be looking at a 7.5-foot side yard setback, which would be a total of 15 feet. So, and there is capacity on the utilities, and so it was identified that the areas that potentially the project could tie into. So there is capacity, there is a cost for the developer to connect to those, and so that would be part of our cost, and that's built into our project. And then we would go forward with further engineering on the development side and on the city side that the developer would fund through that escrow agreement. So as we looked at the community and realized, where there may be opportunities, there was the Montgomery Comprehensive Plan that was put together by the community and other professionals in the year 2020. And so that was in order to help kind of a document planning for the benefit of the community with community members, stakeholders, and then others, that had that planning expertise. So some of the items that we've noticed as we've kind of looked how we could benefit and benefit our project and benefit the community, that there would be a demand of 500 new houses over the 20 years. And the recommendations were to create new zones to allow for a variety of lot sizes and a variety of housing types, which would give citizens more housing options and housing choices. The plan did recommend more affordable housing that would be needed in the city of Montgomery. I looked at the Houston Association of Realtors, a membership, and saw that the current average listing price for homes in Montgomery, and that's Montgomery ISD, it's kind of hard to the city of Montgomery or different zip codes, but Montgomery ISD average list price is over $600,000, and the average sales price for the last 6 months is over $500,000. So just in terms of, that's Montgomery ISD, and in terms of looking at the opportunity for this project, values of the homes would be in the low 400s to 420. So that would be an opportunity as a recommendation from the planning board to provide housing for teachers, police officers, nurses, firefighters, and other service providers. So they also said housing choice leads to better health, adequate jobs, financial stability, security, population diversity. So we've got a clip of the land plan and how it would be laid out. We've got 3 detention basins. We've got the interior streets and the access to the 2 major streets, and how that would be laid out. Another item that, as the project went through the feasibility study by the engineering, was to include in the project all the streets, the residential streets that would be required for the development. And there's also a street from the major thoroughfare plan. So the HGAC works with every county in the region to plan out the transportation network over a 50-year period. And so there's a collector street on that as it goes from Westway south, down through Old Dollar Road, Old Paintersville Road. And so we hadn't anticipated that when we went through the planning initially. We thought it was partially on the track and partially on other tracks. This is typical in the planning industry, having worked for the city of Houston and their Houston Public Works and their planning department. The planning department always takes a chance to grab land when they can. So this would give the planning department a chance to have the right-of-way dedicated via plat, and then a portion of the street built at that time through the expense of the developer. But otherwise, the street would have to be planned out over the next 50 years, the right-of-way acquired at the expense of the city or the county and built at that time. So I know the former planning director for the city of Houston always, took the opportunity to take on these rights-of-way when they could through their department. And so that, again, that's what the major thoroughfare plan for Montgomery County outlines. The plan recommends that the county jurisdictions acquire right-of-way in advance, encourage landowners to donate right-of-way. They recommend that cities collaborate with the development community to ensure the roadways are constructed and dedicated to the city and to the jurisdiction. And then again, within the major thoroughfare plan recommends that through the planning approval process, cities should appropriate the dedication of right-of-way and then have that constructed by private landowners. So that's the next slide is how that collector street is a 70-foot right-of-way and how that would go through the property. And the next section relates to amenities that we plan for. We get 235 lots. We will recommend, so I'll be back tonight, and if we come back in August with a development agreement, we would ask for a variance for 65-foot lots and 7,800 versus 9,000 square foot. We've got 3 detention basins of 8 acres that would include walking trails and park seating. And then we have 7 open areas and park spaces of 7.2 acres. So we've got over 15 acres. That would be that compensating green space or compensating open space for the lot size variance. So as you know, the properties are along the railroad, and we intend to, the property owners have planted trees, and they're old growth trees, very tall, so we intend to keep those, and we would have within the plat a tree buffer, which would be an easement along the railroad of very much about 20 to 30 feet that would create some sort of a barrier, visual and sound, for the residents there. And so the next step, based on feedback from you all tonight, the next step would be to capture all these items into a development agreement between the city and the developer, which would include, the annexation of one of the tracks that are right now in the ETJ, so outside of the city limits, and that kind of expands the city limits and expands the tax base. And then also there's identified within the feasibility study, there is capacity of utilities, and that development agreement would dedicate that capacity to this development, subject to our payment of the share of the cost and the impact fees there. So the variance of lot size, variance of the square footage size, and then a side yard setback. The detention basin and amenity space would compensate for that. And then another item that we've talked about back in January, we've talked about with the city would be to create a public improvement district, which would be a tax for the residents there over a 25-year period to reimburse the developer for the cost. So that would roll in the cost of water and sanitary lines and drainage and streets and engineering cost and to that fee. So there are several other, there are about 15 other pits within Montgomery County and other cities, and this is kind of the means that, for example, Conroe has used to expand their city. So next is where the property is located, the annexation, the feasibility study that was completed by WGA that outlines the utilities that we would connect to and our cost for that. And then information on the public improvement district, the PID, that's specific to the geography of 86 acres, that area there. And that would be included as the service and assessment plan. The fee would, the service area benefits those property owners only. They're the only members that would be taxed by that. That tax is limited by a 25-year period. It's in comparison to other improvement areas where other developers may use a MUD or a special purpose district. That's a way to reimburse for cost. And so in order to complete the development, build a thoroughfare, other expenses, there would be that reimbursement to the developers to do that, to fund, you know, the development. And the bid, public improvement district, just like a TERS or a special district, are provided for in the Texas State Constitution, and property code outlines the implementation and how those are created. And so, again, that would be subject to city council approval in the development agreement. And then that would, we would be required to do a public bid of the improvements, and have the city provide oversight and approval of that process. And then once the improvements are done, there's a CPA that does an audit, you know, of the cost, and that's rolled into a special assessment. And then there's a presentation from the bid consultant to the city council for that special assessment. And outline. So that's in the local government code, chapter 372. Is how that's funded. There are 13 other PIDs within Montgomery County, all throughout Conroe, Magnolia, and then one, I think, commercial PID in Montgomery. And that's just one means. They did the Montgomery County Thoroughfare Plan, identified a PID as one way to fund things like improving property to create transportation districts. We'll execute on that. So currently we've had the property under contract since December. The study was completed in April, and we've had other discussions with the city on, you know, different alternatives for the development, and you know, felt like just what we were able to develop according to this plan would be the most feasible to get through and get approval on. So the next steps would be coming back to you all in a more formal setting for a variance request, the approval of the annexation of the additional acreage, the utilities, and the PID would all go into that next step.
Quick question, and I may have missed it, but I don't see it. Does this development would be under HOA?
There would be property owners association, yes, sir.
POA, okay. So that goes to the next question. All parks and open spaces would belong to that POA?
You know, that's usually how it's done. You know, I know other times, you know, to get something through a city, you know, they can be dedicated to a city, but, but if they're going to be used strictly by the residents of the development, they would typically be dedicated to the POA.
Yeah. I just want to make sure
Who makes that
I'm
decision?
understanding what is done in the development, when they do the development, the HOA. So what they would have to do is deed, when the development is completed and they turn the HOA over to the home, the residents, they would then deed those pieces of property from the developer to the HOA.
Okay, yes.
Which is fine. I just wanted to make sure that those were not just dumped on the city.
So it takes like 90% of the development before they can develop the HOA, right?
Mm-hmm.
Roughly?
What's that?
It takes 90% residency before they can turn it over to an HOA.
I'm not sure the exact numbers. It's just, at some point, the developer will just turn it over to the residents and then leave it up to the HOA to manage.
Does that thoroughfare plan change anything for you if it's there or not there?
You know, it caused some loss of lots,
Yeah.
but it's still a feasible development. It's subject to having the PID go through.
And the one on the north, we didn't take that into consideration. On the Cheatham Stewart track, we didn't take that into consideration. We're the developer, so I didn't know if it would make a difference for you
So
to take it into consideration.
They just point out the streets are wider.
Yeah.
Yeah. The other question was, with the green spaces, I'm assuming they take up the difference with the variance?
That's right.
Okay. Very good. Okay. I do appreciate you taking our recommendations to heart and coming back with what we recommended. I do appreciate that very much. Like I said, you'd be surprised on developers that just come back and push back anyway.
But yes, the items have to be approved by city council.
Right.
So we need to be able to work with you and take your input and feedback and incorporate that. And if it works for the developer, then we're pleased with that and can present it to you as we are now to see if it's something that you would have an interest in us going forward.
Yep. I appreciate the presentation and the details.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much. Very good.
From the feasibility standpoint, Catherine, everything was decent, I'm assuming. We're in good shape. We don't have to do immediate anything.
No, not necessarily, and their build-out speed, the improvements that need to be done to the city, we already knew about. The water plant, the wastewater plant, they will be putting in a lift station enforcement, so that was included in the feasibility study, but nothing out of the ordinary that came up just before.
Okay, good.
Our connection to you, about a minute and a half.
The impact is-
Right, right. Very good. Well, I like it. It looks good.
Questions
So-
and answers?
No, ma'am.
Anyone else? All right.
Thank you.
Thank you so much,
Thank you
Ms.
very
Cox, we
much.
appreciate it. All right. Item number 10, calling a public hearing related to a special use permit application for a paramedical and fine line tattooing business located at 14375 Liberty Street, Montgomery, Texas.
Hey, Mayor and Council, we're asking you to call a public hearing for a special use permit application. And I'll be happy to answer any questions if you have them.
This is an existing one that we do every,
She's moving from somewhere to somewhere else. The backstory on this one is she has a letter from the city that said she was in compliance, but she doesn't have a special use permit. She just wants to get in compliance, but she's moving from one business in town to another.
Okay.
She also wants to expand her services. She was operating under the microblading, the makeup, that type of thing. She wants to expand into what's known as paramedical and fine line tattooing. We'll talk about it more after the public hearing and as it moves through, but it's essentially like a micro tattoo, if you will, like a single needle tattoo, a little decorative thing that you might write your kid's name. You might put a little, it's not like a big tattoo parlor. Again, according to her, the biggest piece of what she does is the paramedical tattooing. That is a full-on tattoo, but for a wholly different purpose than what just an artistic tattoo is. So what this action is tonight is to call the public hearing, just to let the process move forward. As you know, they got to go in front of the Planning and Zoning Commission, get that recommendation, and then come to council. Y'all receive it, you hold your public hearing, and then you can take action on an ordinance. And as with all SUPs, there are conditions that are really at your discretion that you can place on it. So, but again, tonight the action is strictly just to call this public hearing so we can publish notice and move forward with the process.
Make a motion to,
go ahead.
I don't want to drag it out, but could you define paramedical?
Sure, somebody had, the most common way to think of it, or the example that I've heard the most of is areola tattooing. So for a breast cancer survivor who has to have some type of surgery that then leaves them with scarring or removal of some type of thing that they want to, and again, I'm going to fall back to her explanation, to help these people feel whole again after some very serious surgery.
Okay. Okay,
You
Carol,
know,
I'm
it could also be
sorry.
on the face or something like that again.
Just wasn't
But
familiar with that.
there's the difference there between tattooing. So with the state has a paramedical classification that either so in other words, if she didn't have this special use permit, the state laws do allow her to go to a doctor's office to do this. So it does really fall more into the medical, sphere than a cosmetic tattoo.
Okay.
So,
And she has referrals. I remember her saying that
Right.
like her business is very referral based and not a LED light or a strobe light
Yeah.
trying to get business.
yeah, she said that, she is very
Very
fortunate. She
professional.
opens her calendar up and her calendar's full for the month,
Yeah.
within the first day type thing. So it's a really by appointment only type of business.
Okay.
incredible.
Very good. Very good.
I will make a motion to call the public hearing for August the 27th at 6 o'clock to be held at Montgomery City Hall on item number 10.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we accept, the motion been made to have a public hearing for August 27th, 2024 at 6 p.m. held at Montgomery City Hall. This motion is debatable, amendable, requires majority vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. The ayes have it, the motion carries, and we will have a public hearing on August 27th, 2024 at 6 p.m. held at Montgomery City Hall.
Dave, will you make sure that she's here? Since there were a few questions.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
All right, Chief, are you ready? Do you want to go, do we need to come back to you, or we had to skip number 8? Yep, okay, we're number 8.
Number 8 or?
Yeah, it's the ordinance for the city council regarding the proposed Montgomery Crime Control and Prevention District budget for fiscal years 2024 and 2025 and 2025, 2026.
Okay, so Chief, the question was from me in the fact that the reason for the crime district was to offset some of the costs from the city budget to the crime prevention budget.
Yes, sir. If you'll know, go ahead.
It didn't offset any yet.
Absolutely,
right?
absolutely. No, it's
So
not.
you will get your funding the moment, because taxes are gonna be paid in the fall, you know, your quarterlies, right? But there was nothing offset, Chief. So we basically increased your budget here and then increased it on the other page too? And-
No.
Well, no, we did, because that's what this budget's about, absolutely.
That's not.
Yes,
No,
Chief.
first of all, are you gonna give me a chance to talk about that? First of all, when you put this in here tonight on a public hearing, it's not a public hearing. We're going through the motions of getting the crime prevention district started. You guys have not even approved that budget.
That's this motion right here, and that's why I'm asking the questions.
You're asking the question of,
The budget.
Okay.
I'm not gonna approve a budget that burns both ends of the candles, Chief.
you're not approving a budget that's burning both ends of the candle. First of all, the budget that we gave you guys were a projection. We talked to you about that on several occasions. That is a projection. We can't touch any of that money until after the election. And besides, that money, that $550,000 still went to MEDC. None of that money came to us. But when you start the crime prevention, you have to do a budget projection. We did the budget projection for 2 years. The district called for a hearing. The district approved the budget. Then you guys need to approve the budget. Next meeting, we will call for.
Look, I understand the process.
This
We're
is
talking
not-
about the budget
This
that
is
is
not
put
general
on.
fund either.
you're-
That's what he's saying, this is not general fund
You're
dollars, this
understanding
is
that
what
you're-
is projection for the
Oh,
security.
I understand it's, look.
You're
I
understanding the process,
completely.
but what you're not doing is there's no way we could spend any of this money until you guys have approved it. There's been an election, and the citizens have said, yes, there's a crime prevention district.
And
I'm
here's the
gonna
thing,
read this
but
just
Casey,
so
here's the
you
thing, though.
understand.
If it doesn't pass the
What are you
election,
reading?
then it's,
I know, but we're passing a budget that we would have not be able to pull back
I'm not
if we
even sure
pass it
why.
right now.
that's not true.
That's what it says.
That's
what the
exactly
motion is
what it
about.
said.
That's exactly what it says. Read the
You
motion.
were approving
We are approving a
this
budget.
budget
You are
tonight.
approving- You're approving a crime prevention budget.
Exactly.
Proposed.
But you were told time and time again, that budget is a projection. It has to be approved by the governing body. You guys are the governing body. Once that thing's been approved by the governing body, the next thing is to call a joint election. Once that joint election is called and then the voters vote, that's the only time that we, as a department, can start spending any money.
And I totally understand that,
And
but
we
I'm
won't-
looking at the
We won't do
future.
that won't happen until next year.
Chief, I'm looking at the future and the fact the minute that it's passed, that crime prevention district is created. We get our sales tax quarterly. We don't get it in one chunk and
Okay.
then you're done. So you're gonna get funding for this budget within the quarter.
And we'll get funding for that budget, and we won't use any of that money. We won't use any of that money. The money that we're gonna use for this year's police budget is the money that's being approved in the general fund. budget
I
by you
understand,
guys.
and that is my problem. We're funding a budget that you're gonna get paid for 2025, immediately, within 2 months of you getting your crime district, you're going to have money in your budget, and you have not offset 1 penny from the general fund.
There was no way we could have offset any money in that we don't have. That's money that we don't have.
It's a proposed budget.
When we talked about this district, you understood that wouldn't be any
That it
money.
would offset the costs.
It would
That was the
offset
understanding.
We talked about it the other day when I talked to MEDC, and we talked about it wouldn't be for 2 or 3 years before that's going to offset the entire budget.
I'm not
for
saying
this police
offset the
department.
entire,
Okay?
but you didn't offset a penny.
Also, you guys were looking to use whatever money came into that thing for the leasing of this property on the building. So that would have taken up all of that. And there's still yet, you're approving a budget because in order to go by legislation and what the legislature approved, you have to go by.
I'm not saying that we don't have to approve it. What I'm saying is I don't want to approve the content.
You're not going to approve a budget that we're going to use money from. We're not going to use any money from that budget for this year. We're going to use the money from the budget that we talked about in our budget meeting yesterday. We won't use any money from this budget at all. We won't use any money from this budget.
This is just a
for another
placeholder
2 or 3
that
years.
exists
It's
to get it
The
done.
fact of the matter is the money will be there.
It's a formality, though, and we can't use
Oh,
any
absolutely,
money.
it will be there.
We can't use any
So
money
I
that you
can't,
guys
he can
don't
probably send
approve.
it back to us. I mean, I don't know how it all works because I'm not,
If you feel more comfortable, you can postpone this until the August 13th meeting. As long as the budget's adopted prior to the election being called, you know, you can deliberate on the budget or hash out whatever needs to be hashed
Absolutely.
out.
And the deal is, we can't use any of this money without you guys approving. That's why there's a board, and anything comes from that board comes to you guys. The formality of this is that you have to put together a 2-year budget, along with a strategy plan, along with a plan. But as far as us looking back to start double dipping, as you say, or using this money, we can't do that.
Right.
That's not our
But here's
intention.
the thing. I'm going to read this ordinance to you, just so you understand exactly what it says. It says, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Montgomery, Texas, approving the proposed Montgomery Crime Prevention District Crime Control Plan budget for the fiscal year of 24-25.
That's exactly what it says, sir.
So if we approve that budget, it is open.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is, because it's approved.
If you approve that budget, we cannot use any of that
This is
budget
just to
money
launch it.
without the permission of the board.
If we approve that
without the
budget, it's
permission
open.
of the
It's
district.
proposed, but it should
Yeah,
be close to a final
exactly.
product. I mean, it shouldn't be different from, it shouldn't be
Exactly.
much different from the
So
final product.
once we approve this budget, it's an approved budget.
exactly, yeah.
Yes, you can still move money around. It's a
Yeah.
governmental agency. You can still move money
Right.
around, but I recommend that the proposed budget should be pretty close to what final budget, they should match up.
Exactly.
Close, unless there's,
And this is the number you've been saying.
Yes, and
Right,
there's
but my
no
whole
money.
understanding
There's
was
no
that
money.
it would start to offset, right? The minute he starts, if it gets passed, it would start to offset the general fund.
If it
Not
passes,
a penny.
if it passes,
I know, but why would you, I get that, but here's the problem, people. If we're approving the budget. The wording says approving budget, not approving a budget that we can change later. It says approved.
Right, but if it doesn't pass, then there's no, but if it does
But
pass,
that's exactly the contingent I want to be prepared for, is when it does pass.
but here's the deal. If this budget passes, unless the Crime Prevention Board, along with you guys, approve any use of that money, we can't use that money. So that's not what it's for. It's for the formality of going through the steps of how
That's the formality.
the legislature is drawing it up. It's not for us to, after it gets approved, to start using money. That's not the way it works.
Well, I make a motion that we approve item 8 as described.
there's a motion by Cheryl.
Second?
Second by Stan. There's a motion on the table that we approve item number 8 as presented. This motion is debatable, amendable, requires majority vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay.
Nay.
The ayes have it, the motion carries, and we will accept item number 8 as presented. Now, item number 12, selection of a service provider response to the submittals received from the primary. Oh, you didn't, oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, I thought I heard you.
2-1.
I am
Okay.
so confused.
Okay,
about
sorry, I thought I heard you say yes, sorry.
budget
We'll back up.
and all of this that I am not comfortable voting on this. I am not.
So
Caleb,
recuse
you are
yourself?
positive that if we waited till the next meeting and saw what Casey's talking about in the budget, that we still have plenty of time?
Yes.
We're not holding them
Yes.
up?
All the law requires is that the proposed budget is approved before you call the election. So you can have that agenda item before you call the election. So you don't
Is this
have-
like an infrastructure?
guys-
This is the structure of it, this is what we're presenting, but then it can change later.
Did you guys get a copy of the budget?
Proposed, yeah.
This is the budget.
Yeah.
Did you guys get a copy of the budget?
Yes,
Uh,
we got
I
it.
gave it
It's in
to,
our,
I gave it to my
Yes, we have it.
replacement.
Yeah.
it's in our
Our packet.
packet.
But Chief, because to me, it's a kind of a no-brainer, is the fact that we are proposing, you have to propose this budget to be able to
have to have a projected-
create the district.
You have to have a projected budget,
And we-
because that projection, on that projection budget, all of that money with the MEDC. What we said was MEDC last year made $1.1 million. If that would have been a split, that $550,000 would have come to crime prevention. When you start setting it up that way the legislature says, you have to draw up a 2-year budget along with the
Absolutely.
plan.
And I am not-
understand what you're
I am
saying
not
when it says
arguing with that fact.
Yeah.
I'm arguing with the content of the
Right.
budget.
And I understand what you're saying when it says that, are we going to start using that money? At no time has that been a plan of ours, is to start using that money until after you guys have approved it, election has approved it, and then, because as I said earlier, the projection of this council was to use that money for the building. So we had no intentions on using that money, at least for the next 2 years.
But on the other hand, is that you really cannot be spending money from both sides of the
Right,
fence.
right.
You cannot, but you,
Right,
if you don't
right.
have a budget for the
If
city,
that money had
but if you
been,
don't have a budget for the city, then
if
you
that
have no
money would have
money.
been available, we would have come to council and said, we have this much amount of money available. Can we use it on these items here?
Right.
If you would have approved those items, we would have used it on those items, which would have offset the budget from the general fund. But there's no way we would have come back, okay, now we have this money here, so we're going to use it. No, we would have come and said, look, we have this $550,000, and the board has approved us to use this money on cars. Let's just say cars, for instance. So we're going to use $265,000 on cars. Then you guys would have to approve that. So that's the only way we would have been able to do that.
But here, you're stating you'd only use it for the police and the court facilities.
Right.
That's where, yeah.
Only-
And that's what the original, that's what started this whole thing, is that.
I get the confusion, I get what Casey's saying, but all this was a projection, and we talked about that on a few occasions, on how that worked.
But it's a very conservative projection. So I'm not, I mean, this number is, it's
Yeah,
not wrong.
it's awfully
It's not
conservative.
wrong.
It's awfully conservative, but we had nothing to go on. If we go by some projection of next year, we don't know what that's going to be. Or when the fall, or when that money starts rolling in, we have no idea what that's going to be. You've got Lupe Tortilla, you've got Home Depot, and you've got other businesses that are opening. So you're going to have more and more tax dollars, so sales dollars. So we had no idea what that was going to be. So we have to go with what's there presently, which was $1.1 million.
Right.
The board itself is temporary. You know.
No, it's not.
We don't have a permanent, yes it is.
No, it's permanent now.
Not-
It was just approved.
No, I thought I thought we had another board after if it was approved by the electors.
We have a temporary director's board.
Yeah.
The
Temporary.
temporary director's board was approved by you guys.
Right.
We have some city council people on that board as well.
Right.
Mr. Casey stepped down. One of the local DAs is on that board. Everything goes through that board. We had the public hearing. Once we had the public hearing, then we came in gave them the budget. Now it's time for you guys to approve the budget because we have to send it back to the governing body. And once that governing body, next council meeting, what we should be doing is approving a joint election. And that joint election is for us to start getting the elections on. That's when we can start advertising that there's going to be. At that point is when we start having town hall meetings to talk to anybody in the public about the CCP. But this is just a formality of approving the budget. that budget up.
So to your question,
I have a question for Caleb real quick. How hard is it to amend that budget once we approve it right here?
We can go back.
So you're just approving the proposed budget, you can just make a motion based on whatever changes you want to the next meeting.
I mean, after we.
We can amend a
do the
budget
election.
anytime.
True,
Yeah.
true, but I think,
This is different. It's
Yeah,
like the
CCP
MEDC board, we
budget,
can't
No,
just
but
amend
they
their
don't- they
budget.
can- yeah,
They
you
can, but we can't.
Well, the CCPD board, yeah, so,
Exactly.
yeah, they can amend it, right,
Yes.
that's correct.
Yeah.
I'd have to look into it, I think it's 45 days or something, you have to amend the budget after it's approved by council. You can make changes, whatever's in the best interest of the taxpayer, I believe what the law says.
Okay,
so basically,
we're approving this budget right now.
And you have 45 days to change it.
Yeah,
but to answer your question, there's not gonna be any money transferring
No.
anywheres for
Not at all.
another year or
No,
two. Right?
No, because we get paid sales tax on the quarter. So they'll get, if this passes on November, the minute it goes into effect, they start getting their payments.
No, it takes the state a whole lot longer than that.
Yeah, not
We
only,
get paid on the quarter. I don't know why it would.
But
not only that, if you're looking,
Too much
it has
behind.
to all be
At least.
approved
folks,
Yeah.
with the
let's talk about
state.
this.
Right.
If you're looking at the spending of the money from this budget, I've said this a couple of times. You guys have projected that that would be the money that you would use for the lease of that, to start the lease of that building.
A certain
So
amount.
when you start, at some point, 3 years from now, this will be a 5-year deal, and you can revote it after that 5 years. At some point on that, after about the 3rd year, then yes, we can probably take our entire police budget and use it out of the CCP district, which takes that money, which takes us off of you guys and puts money back into the general fund.
But it'll
Even
take
with the
3
start of
years.
it,
To get flush. But
Yes.
you also stated that, say your budget's 2 million next year, and there's 800,000 here, you would not put the 800 in your budget, you said you would take this.
We won't do
And so that
anything.
it would, yeah, so
we won't
we
do
should see
anything
your
until
annual
council
budget
says-
to
until council
decrease
says
it.
it's time for you to start using this.
Yeah,
We
yeah.
won't do it because we know that when we first started this, that was one of the ways to offset the
Yeah.
lease of this building.
Right.
It wasn't for us to start using the right way, but in the long run, it's going to help the city, it's going to help this police department because now you can take us off that general budget. So that's what it was about. I mean, if we were just going to do a one-time deal, we could have gone to MEDC. MEDC is there's a clause in MEDC in your ordinance that says that MEDC could have paid for that building.
Absolutely.
So just to do a one-time thing, it's not it. That's why we needed something long-term that's not going to be good for the police department as a budget, but also the city to take us off of that general fund budget.
Right. So again, I have no problems with the CCPD, the theory of it and how it works. My problem was with the budget.
Right.
And I understand it's a proposed budget, but it's a 2-year budget.
Yes, sir. And yes, and you're right when you say that projection, but there's nothing else to go on with that projection. I mean, we could come and say, okay, next year, they're gonna have $2 million, and we don't know that, though.
Right.
But then you would come back.
If it comes to 2.5, then you know that $1.5 million, that $1.05 comes, that $1.5 comes here. But we can't project that. We have to go with what we have at that particular time.
So your crystal ball says you'll have 550,000, what if you get $1 million? So would you come back and amend that, or that's what the CCPD would have to amend it, saying there's more money in there?
If that comes back for that budget, yes, you guys would have to
Yeah,
amend that.
so just right size it.
Most people would have to amend that.
With
But right now,
combination.
there's none of that money in our budget. There's none of that money anywhere near us. Let's not get confused again. Hold on a second.
End of story. It's a approved budget. It's no different
It
than
still
MEDC.
has to
It's
come
set
to
up
council,
exactly.
though.
Yes.
It still has to come to
It's
council.
just like MEDC's budget. Once we approve it, we have no control over it. This is 2 years.
Yeah,
If we approve it,
yep.
they
I
do not have to
understand.
bring back anything to us because it's been approved.
Well, the Crime Prevention Board has to bring it back to you
Yes.
guys. They have to bring it back to you guys.
They don't just have free will.
The Crime Prevention
They don't.
Board, each year comes up for the use of budget money, that Crime Prevention Board, directors, they have to bring that to you guys.
Yeah.
Okay.
That was one of the big selling points
That's my
when we discussed it.
misunderstanding on this is because this is a 2-year budget and we normally approve 1-year budgets.
Right.
Right.
But you have to have a 2-year
Right.
projection. You have
You
to
have
have
to,
2-year,
for the-
you have to approve
for
a
the
2-year budget to
found-
get
to
it
build
going.
it up for the state.
And yes, you will have the ability. The board of directors here, they can only look at what it is we're doing, but they have to bring it back to you guys.
Okay.
And then moving forward, since this is the framework for the 2-year, moving forward, it'll be year to year to year to year, just like normal budgets.
And I get it, it's a lot.
Okay.
We're trying to follow a timeline with what the legislature has put there. We're trying to follow that timeline, and with that timeline, you have to put together boards, you have to get approval from city council. It's a lot going on. You have to put together elections and the whole 9 yards. So it's a lot going on.
Okay.
But, yeah,
So,
nothing will be approved without you guys.
So, Mr. Green, since I asked the question and 2 said yes, 1 said nay, and there was nobody, do you need another question?
So,
I do for James, I'd just like to rescind my nay and change it to a yes.
Okay.
I think that's how that works.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
We already have a motion, we had a second on the motion.
We're gonna kill it.
The vote was conducted. We need to leave it as it is.
What is that, a yay, and she's just recused
You'll be
herself?
recorded as a nay. Councilmember Langley will be recorded as a abstain.
Okay.
The motion still carries.
Still been carries, yeah. Okay.
Right. Because we don't
I
have
mean,
full
technically
council.
speaking, after the vote, we should not have gone back into deliberation. We should have moved on to the next.
So don't we have to have 3 yeses?
That's what I was
For this,
thinking.
for the quorum, for it to be majority?
To see you only have 2.
That was my.
That's what I thought.
That
I
was
don't
my
know.
concern is that we
Okay,
had to
you
have
don't-
3 yeses.
No, because you guys have 5 people,
Okay.
right? So if
But for,
But we
Carol
only have 4
voted no,
people.
Casey voted no.
well, I would vote if there was 2
you
and
go
2.
to the tiebreaker.
Right.
Yeah.
With an abstention, then
Right.
But since
There-
Carol abstained,
it's 2-1.
Yeah, so it's 2 to 1.
So we
Okay,
don't-
gotcha. All right,
that
thank
was-
you.
That was my concern.
Well, that's, hold on a second. There are provisions, especially when it comes to budgets, that require a supermajority, which would be 3.
Right, and
Well,
that's-
3, so 3 voted.
Let me defer
Yeah, but
to.
you'd have to pass it with
Three.
3, because it's a budget. That was my concern, is that we had to have 3 votes.
I see, I thought maybe we
Okay, we're good.
voted again.
Okay, we're good? All right.
We're all right?
Okay. Well, then, item number 11 has passed.
Yes.
Okay, as presented.
No, not number
Oh, 8,
11.
sorry, my bad, 8.
8.
Sorry, my bad. Whew.
I knew what you
Do we
meant.
need to recess? Okay. Okay, item number 12, selection of a service provider responsive to the
No,
submit.
no.
What?
Now you're on number 11.
I'm on 12.
No, you're not.
Dadgummit, I am so sorry.
It's-
Read
that's
number
okay.
11.
All right, number 11.
It's
waste management.
Resolution renewing the service agreement between the City of Montgomery and Waste Management of Texas, Inc. for citywide trash and recycling services, providing a repealer, providing a severability, and providing an effective date.
Thank you, Mayor. Smith, our waste management rep. Good luck to you.
We need to take 5.
This will be real smooth.
Let's,
So I do have, well, we're going to kind of bounce back and forth. I did put together just a few slides to kind of help us along what we're looking at. One, the first slide, just as a review of where we were at during workshop, what we decided during workshop in the month of June. And then the second, I just wanted you to consider an alternative for how we calculate our annual adjustments. And so you do have a printout before you. And then, but go ahead and turn to page 143 of the agenda packet, because I'm going to reference that here in a minute. Next slide, please. On the second slide, again, this is just going down, looking back in the rearview mirror of what we've already talked about. So during workshop, generally as we approach an extension or a renewal in any type of agreement, I do my due diligence and I go talk to the crews and say, hey, what are you seeing in the streets? Do you see changes? I go do site evaluations, so I know I've already talked to you all about this stuff, but in doing some of that, I decided I wanted to approach you all with considering some alternative options to what we currently have for service. And so, as we noticed, bulky collection wasn't used each and every week. You have bulky collection each week. The thought was, well, why don't we change this to once a month? The great thing about this is we're not changing the volume. Every week today, we pick up to 2 items each week. If we change, as we decided to change per month, we change up to 8 items. So we're not taking any volume away, it's just, we're just picking it up one time a month because I've noticed, crews noticed, that we don't have much participation each and every week. Bulky items are furniture, you're not getting a new couch every week, those types of things. So that was the rationale for changing to option 3. It's also more, there's a cost efficiency with it. So if you were to stick with your current state, you know, it's about a 50-cent difference. So there's a cost savings with it too. So that's where we started off. We started a new agreement. We started writing that up. The other thing I consider that something new as an alternative, which is the next slide, is how, like I said, how we calculate adjustments each year. And so this slide is super busy. Hang with me. I will explain everything going on here. So the top row is how we calculate our annual adjustments today. Hey, look, we're fully prepared to move on with what we do today, but I wanted to bring to you an alternative way to consider how we do this because I think it can be improved. It benefits both the city and WM with the proposed option for calculating, which is the bottom row. But let's just take what we do today. So when I go to calculate the adjustment in the year, take the first column, which is the CPI, the Consumer Price Index for CPI. We look at 1 month during that year, and that's whenever, you know, we entered into the agreement or whenever we, you know, considered pricing way long ago in 2006. And so the month was March. And so each year I only look at March, 1 month out of 12 months and say, oh, okay, well, the change is 5.76, and that's what that teeny tiny little table is right there. It's the difference between March of 23 versus where it's at today, March of 24. 5.67%, that's that part of the adjustment. Then I also look at fuel. And so the only way fuel is added at this point is if we go over, if fuel, diesel fuel, goes over $4.25. So it's a 1% change increase for every 25 cents fuel goes up. Now, one thing we definitely need to change is we use natural gas. You guys know that. We use cleaner fuel. So we do need to consider natural gas. Either way, we should go with it. However, with that said, if we were doing it like we were today, the diesel price from the previous year was $3.47, which is that table. And then from the current year, it's $3.45. So it doesn't go above it doesn't reach $4.25. There is no adjustment for fuel this year. So if you look on the far right-hand side, that total adjustment, if we were using what we do today in the current agreement, is 5.76%. That's what would be applied. Any questions on that? Are we good with how we currently do it? Okay, so the next thing is what I'm proposing you just consider. Like I said, I think there's merit to it. I think it's beneficial for both on how it looks at it. The current, you're almost taking 100% of both CPI and fuel, right? You're taking 100% of that change. The bottom for CPI and fuel is weighted. So CPI, whatever CPI comes out to be, we take 90% of that, and then fuel we take 10%. Because yes, fuel is a big component for, you know, the cost of our goods and services, but certainly not 100% of it like what we currently do now. So it's a smaller percentage, 10% of that fuel adjustment. Okay, so also today we only look at 1 month. What we're proposing is to look at all 12 months. How does that look over 12 months? Because we don't buy our goods and services just in March for that year. We buy them every month. So it just makes more sense that we our average or annualize and see what we take that CPI based on a 12-month average. So if you're looking at that table, the average is in the far right-hand column. If you look at the entire year, it's 7.069. Just as, if you look back to page 143, just so you can see, the high for that 12-month period is 8.8%. The low happens to be March. You won the lottery for this CPI year. It's lower, it's 5.76. So that's where this is better to take that 12-month average. It's just, you know, it's not arbitrary, it's not random, excuse me. So you take that 7.06 and you multiply it by 90%, it brings it down to the 6.36%. So that's your CPI piece. Your natural gas is the exact same thing. We're taking that cost for natural gas over 12-month period, which is the change. You can see, we all know fuel has gone down, but it's negative 23%. If you multiply that by that 10%, you get negative 2.37. Add those up, and then you go to the right-hand column, it's 3.99% would be your adjustment for this year. I know I just said a lot, but I think you're following. I saw heads nodding. So the proposed calculation is what's in the agreement today. If you feel that that is a good option, we will keep it in there, but if you feel like what we have currently is what we need to keep, then we will put that in that agreement. But I believe, unless there's any other questions.
So I have several.
Yes, sir.
Unfortunately, I missed I was out of town for the workshop, so some of these might be redundant questions. Bear with me.
No, great.
So one of them, since you're talking about your weighted in your proposal, this is pretty standard CPI, using CPI to do cost adjustment.
Absolutely.
My question lies with the amount of weight that you put on your fuel, which seems low, 10%.
Well, okay, go ahead.
Generally, when you're dealing with vehicles, and yours is a vehicle-based business, it's higher than that, right?
So are you asking for like the rationale? Why?
Yeah, why
lower?
is your weight only 10% on the fuel?
So, CPI does consider some fuel, like to your point, it's certainly not all of it. If you were to compare, the changes in fuels, the CPI, they don't follow along with each
absolutely
other.
Not.
They're adverse, so the reason that we choose 90% is because, yes,
No,
CPI
not
does
the CPI,
bear.
I get the 90. I'm talking about why so low of the 10% weight for fuel cost?
Because CPI does bear some of the fuel.
Yeah, it's just adjusted, well, we won't go into that, but it's adjusted to benefit. Because fuel is actually probably one of your highest expenses, yet we're only getting a 10% weight of it. But that's okay, and that's how you do it, so that's what we're gonna look at.
Can I add
I'm looking at
something to that?
What's that? Go for it. What you got?
So one thing, I neglected to say this, with the current, there is no mechanism for going down. Now, obviously, that trigger, then we would take, the next year we wouldn't if it doesn't reach that. But that's the benefit of this too, is
Absolutely.
it does go down.
Absolutely, and that was a comment I had with Gary, is that this does allow for it to go down once a year. It's just the weight seems low, but it's how you're figuring it. So the other part is the contract. I have a couple questions with the contract.
Yes, sir.
It's a 5-year contract.
Correct.
So I would assume if we're gonna commit for 5 years that we would get some sort of a discount. But it's not really, it's the same rate, so I don't see the benefit of going past our regular 2. At your door special collection is part of the sales pitch for this. There's a clause F on page 8, paragraph 5.03.
Yes.
It says, contractor will provide a household hazardous waste on demand collection program to resident units under the terms and conditions that set forth in the document entitled At Your Door Special Collection Program. See Exhibit A. And then it goes on to say, contractor has the right to discontinue this service offering on 30 days written notice to the city. Does that include a rate adjustment?
Correct.
Because it doesn't say that.
Okay, I'm happy to add something like that in there. Because, right, I mean, you don't have the service, we wouldn't
Well,
want
that's
you to
what
pay for something
it gives
that.
you an out, but it leaves us on the
Right.
hook, right? So,
Right. Which is oversight, thank you.
Then the bulky trash, it's a little confusing. You talked about the bulky trash. In here it says you bag it up, you make sure it's under 35 pounds and it's tied good and you'll pick it up. But then when you go to section 5.05, paragraph B, it says contractors shall not be required to collect any waste or recyclables that are not placed in the cart. Well, bulky trash ain't gonna fit in the cart if it's in a bag tied up next to it, so you're not gonna pick it up.
Okay, you might have lost me for a second there. So I do understand what the definition of bulky is. It should be tied or
Yeah,
bundled.
and it says that they will be picked up.
Right, correct.
But
I'm
then it
with you
goes on
there.
in this paragraph to say that you will not pick it up. I'm
So
trying to
that would be
understand
for just regular garbage collection. It would not apply to bulky.
Well, I know, but I'm just saying, in one point of your contract, it says you will, and then another point, it says you won't.
Okay, so I will look at it and make
Okay.
sure that,
In B.
and what item is that, or what?
So it's
provision?
5.05, commercial hand collect unit cards, so it's part of the commercial part.
Uh-huh.
But it never states in bulky whether commercial or not, it just says if it's bulky, it has to be tied up and it gets picked up, twice a month or once a
Oh,
month?
because it's a part of the scope of service, correct?
Yeah.
Right. It's a
Right.
description instead of like the actual
Absolutely,
definition.
which is scope of your general services, but then there's
Right.
this clause right here that says you're not gonna pick it up. So is it part of the service or is it not?
It is. I'm gonna have to look at what you're
Okay.
talking about, and we'll
But not
definitely get that fixed.
Yeah, well, it doesn't designate in commercial from bulky to, on the hand, because this is the hand pickup trash, right? Then 5.07, overage collection. I'm not really sure what that's about, and the question was more of a clarification. It says contractors shall have no obligation to collect unusual accumulations or overages. What is an unusual accumulation?
So that would be if we came to a house and somebody was evicted and there is way more than 8 items, so on and so forth, but you want us to pick that up.
Okay.
We would be willing to do that, but we would have to charge above, you
Okay.
know, that's what that means.
I was just trying to understand what the definition
Absolutely,
of
yes, sir.
unusual accumulation. Yeah.
What was your
sir.
question about 505, 5.0B of commercial?
So,
I'm
if
reading
you look
it,
at
the
B, it
contract.
says contractors shall not be required to collect any waste or recyclables that are not placed in the cart.
Yeah.
Right.
But if you look under bulky trash, it says as long as it's tied up in a bag and set next to it, they'll pick it up on those designated dates.
But if you go up to A, it'll tell you that they should provide a cart and recycling cart to each commercial
I know.
poly cart should be placed, and it tells you nothing should be placed outside of it.
And exactly, but under bulky trash, as long as that bag is tied up and placed next to the cart, they'll pick it up on those days.
But bulky trash residential or bulky trash commercial, or is it
It
bulky
doesn't
trash?
designate the difference.
Yeah, that's what you're saying. Okay,
saying.
that's what you're saying. Okay.
It's our page 124 and 125.
Yeah.
It doesn't designate a difference. So when it says that's part of the service and there's no designation excluding commercial,
Which, yeah.
then I need to understand what they're talking about, right?
Now I completely understand. It's the difference between the commercial and the residential.
Residential, yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Because residential says they will pick it up, commercial says they won't.
But
Correct.
if you go under the
That's correct.
definitions,
Right.
which the definitions are the keys to your contract,
Yeah.
it doesn't ever designate
The
commercial or
case where it
residential.
needs to be cleaned up.
Yeah, that's what she's,
Sure.
Right,
No problem.
then, yeah. So that was the other thing, the bulky waste, is once a month, is that correct? And right now it's twice a month?
It's each week,
right now.
correct.
I thought it was twice a month, no?
No, because there's,
Oh, yeah, we changed it.
my neighbor
No.
had 2 big black bags tied up next to,
Uh-huh.
or 3, next to his trash can, and they come and got the trash and left those bags, so I know it's not every week.
I
So,
thought we talked about that y'all did bulky twice on the 2nd and the 4th, and then we would go down to 1, and they'd have to come get a pink slip from City Hall
but that's
if it was
the new
outside.
deal.
So-
That's what I'm saying, so, but talking about the new deal, that was the difference between now is twice and that's going to 1. That's
So
what
to-
I,
So to your point, yes, there are alternative solutions. It was on
Yeah.
that first
Yeah.
slide and I didn't touch it. But for somebody who, you know, for most of the time, once a month is going to work. But sometimes you have graduation parties. Sometimes
Sure.
you have a crawfish boil. So it's a temporary need. What we would offer now, this would be new, is what we call a pink tag. And so this pink tag, you come to the city, you buy it. I believe the cost in there is $2.25. And so for $2.25, you put whatever you need in your bag. If you have a pink tag on it, then that driver will stop, like after he empties the cart, he will stop, put it back down, put it in the cart, and lift again, because you're paying for that. And it's just a temporary need. But we also have a second cart, you know, for somebody, I moved my mom in, or, you know, now I have 3 teenage boys, we had a birthday, whatever it might be, you can have a second cart. And it doesn't put, I guess, the pressure on everybody to have this additional service and the additional cost. So those are the alternative services that are within that contract.
So again, back to, since you brought the cost up, if you look at your 24-25 rates,
Yes, sir.
Right? Our 24 rate is 23.75, and it has not been adjusted, I assume, for 25. Or, I mean, obviously you can't till you get through, well, no, we could use March and probably do the math on it. But, so we want to take less services, except for adding a service that we pay, that the citizen pays for. And then the rate would go up. And we're, yeah, I guess I'm trying to understand the benefit of it here.
I mean, if you go back to, if you don't mind on that PowerPoint, can you go back to slide 2? So if you were to keep each week, that rate would be $25.41. If it's once a month, it's $24.94. And so that's where the cost difference is. The differential increase or adjustment over the last 5 years is, the average has been about 5.1%. So option 3 keeps you where you have been over the last 5 years, especially under, I mean, we've had wages go up by 30, 40, 60% even in some cases in some years. So we're just trying to find a way to offset some of that stuff. Particularly after I've observed, my team has told me it's not utilized each week.
Right,
However, those are alternative solutions.
Right.
Pink tag, extra cart for those who might need that.
No, and it's not utilized.
It used to be on once a month.
Yeah, yeah.
I believe the last contract was where we went to once a week.
Right.
So we were at once a month before.
Okay, yeah. Then there was section 9.03, additional adjustments. What is an uncontrollable increase?
Something where there is a law passed or it's a change in fee for disposal, something that we can't control necessarily. And that's something that I would bring to you and you either approve or disapprove. It's not something that's immediate or automatic by any means. What that says too is I would write up something that you would understand with this uncontrollable circumstances. You evaluate whether that's reasonable or not, and you would either approve or disapprove.
So,
And that's something we had in the last contract.
Based on that comment though, the next line in that exact paragraph said, if the city denies or takes no action, so if the city denied or took no action, then the contractor shall have the right to terminate the agreement upon 90 days.
Correct.
So we really don't have a choice, is what you're saying.
Well, no, that's not it at all. I mean, generally, and I have done this in the past with different municipalities or utility districts, we worked towards a solution. I mean, you guys have done this with whoever's come with me before. I mean, we come with you with a problem and we work our way through it. I've not been in the position where we've just...
No, y'all have been great to work with and y'all have come.
Oh, absolutely.
It's a good partnership for sure.
Thank you.
I'm trying to just understand a few things.
No, understood, absolutely.
I believe...
It's important, so I understand and
I
appreciate
think
it.
there was one more.
Have y'all done away with the, the 2-man crews that pick up your trash manually and load it?
No, sir, you still would have, for your bulky items, you would still have to have a crew, just because, the automated side load truck would, is designed to pick up only the cart. It wouldn't be able to pick up, it's not like a grapple truck where it can pick up, bulky items as well. So you would have 2, this is a good point though, because sometimes folks get confused. On a bulky day, you're gonna have 2 different types of trucks, picking up one, the garbage cart, and then a second bulky item with your rear load, which has the 2 men on the back and a driver. So no, we're not trying to do away with it.
The reason I ask is because in my particular subdivision, they always used a crew. And the last time they picked up, they used a mechanical forklift and just went, like the recycle people come by and pick the cans up one by one, throw them in. So when they came by our house this time, it was the same type of proper operation, only there was no men walking the streets. They just used the thing to pick the can up and throw it in, but that's the first time I've seen it.
That's ours is automated. Yeah, we don't have to go.
It's like they said, I think it's once in a while, once a month, twice, whatever, they come with a crew.
You had both trucks go through at that time. We just, especially here lately with hurricane and that kind of thing, we're probably throwing trucks just to get it done. So you might have had an automated side load, a helper truck come in help finish up service.
Yeah, I'm just trying to determine if that's going to be the case all the time, or we're going to still have the walking crew.
It'd just be
sometimes.
once a month.
Correct, right. It would be a rear-load truck once a month, correct.
So then, Mike, on the quarterly big trash event, quarterly cleanup event, so the last 2 times, those 2 dumpsters have been overflowing and we've had more than trash on the side and as much as in the things, right? Because it's just full. I don't know if it's part of, if we can increase it to every 60 days or.
We're increasing the number of dumpsters.
Right, so the last contract had 4, we are increasing it by 1 for each
Okay.
quarter, so now it's 5.
So we have like 6 now? 5.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Mike thought of that.
I think that was my last question.
So what I would recommend, if the council's okay with the agreement, and if there are changes you want made, just do it by condition, so we can get it approved. Obviously, our contract with them expires next month.
Yeah.
So time is kind of of the essence on this one.
So we're going to go.
So Gary, this would be the contract then?
The agreement that's in the packet is the contract.
No, sir.
But it's for 5 years.
Yeah. So, and that's the other, yeah, I'm glad you said that, Stan.
Yes.
This deal is only a 5-year deal? We can't do a shorter deal?
I have actually requested it for 5 years.
You did request it for 5
Because
years?
we come back every year, and for me and for the staff, it's a logistical issue.
Okay, so that's a
My
2-year
locks is on.
contract generally, but,
Well,
because the last time we did it.
we have had one, I think you showed us a 2 or a 3 year and then a 5 year. And we locked into the price.
Right, and the rate was
Well, I mean,
more
we're
for
locked
2
into the
years.
price increases. I mean, there's no price benefit to it. So. The only difference is the natural gas way of figuring things, which is fairly straightforward. And that would be the way we do it, right? Option,
Would you like 8515? Do you, I mean,
no, I mean, this is what's proposed in the contract, right?
correct,
The
that is
second-
correct, yes, sir.
Okay. Yeah. We don't have to change it because you said this would be option 3?
Option 3 is adopted in the contract you've got there.
Okay, okay.
Correct.
Okay. Very good. That's all the questions I have. Thank you very much.
Okay. Hey, I should have said this before I got started, but we do appreciate this partnership. It has been 17 years. You've watched us grow, we've watched you grow. You entrust our crews every week, to come on the streets. Hopefully it's been pretty good for you. I know we're not perfect, but one thing I can say about WM, and I truly mean this, I worked for hospitals and schools and all kinds of industries, but WM, the people, if we do hiccup or whatever it is, I've never seen a bunch of people respond and take action. So thank you. I know we're not always perfect, but I hope you've seen that response and we appreciate the opportunity. Thank you.
So to the motion to clean up the contract before we approve it,
If you can itemize those in your motion, that would be ideal.
well, I mean, it's just clarification, I guess, clean up.
Yeah, if you want to just maybe clarification and then hit the section that takes you out of what we're talking about.
I'm going to find it again. I did highlight them, thank God.
9.03 was the CPI, so we'll put up that. 505 was the whole.
Yeah.
That's the one
Yeah,
that
clean it up a little bit. And then 5.07.
So, yeah, so it was 5.03, section F, it had to do with the contractor's right to discontinue services after offering of 30 days, written notice. Is there, some kind of reason that you can discontinue services? Do we have to make an offense, or you can just change your mind and we have to pay the extra for it anyways?
Okay, 5.03, I'm going to turn to it real quick. You have a page number?
It's page 8, section 5.03, section F.
Oh, it's her, page 8. What is it on ours? Hold on.
No, I don't know, this is the contract. It's the at-your-door special collection clause of,
Oh, at your door, that's, yeah.
Ask the question
but we're
one more
paying
time.
extra for the at-your-door. So The question is, and I read this out, it says you have the right to discontinue services of the offering on 30 days notice. So what is the reason that you would discontinue service? You can just change your mind?
No, this would have to be just because perhaps, we collect this stuff and it goes to a place for processing. And so if that processing facility or whatever said, look, we can't take this anymore, or whatever it is, we would have to be able to adjust to that. Either we're going to find an alternative, maybe it's a different facility, and I can turn with you with that, but if there is no availability, I mean, this is pretty niche.
So the rate would then be adjusted?
Yes, and I think that's what your point was.
Yeah.
So for 5.03, we would need to add some kind of verbiage that says,
The rate
with
would
some
be
kind of
adjusted if
consideration
this
of
is
change in
discontinued.
rate,
Yeah.
something to that effect.
And then clarification on the commercial, when it comes to the bulky trash, on what will be picked up and what won't be picked up.
Yeah, for bulky, there's no bulky collection provision for the commercial.
For commercial at all.
And
Because
that's
the
why
hand
you
collecting
see it the
so
way
they're hand
it's
collecting
written.
it, but they're not gonna pick it up if it's next to, in the bag. Okay. So we can leave that out then, 5.05B, we want to worry about. The accumulation is understood.
I think that's it.
I think so, I think that was the main thing.
So that's 5.03 with the rate would be adjusted for the lack of service.
Yep, yeah, I think so.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that's
Council, I'll entertain a motion. No further discussion.
I'll make a motion to accept item 11 with the
5.3 rate would be adjusted.
5.03 rate would be adjusted if the service was discontinued. So 5.03 of the contract, if the service was discontinued, that the rate would be adjusted.
Second?
It's been motioned by Casey, seconded by Stan, that we accept item number 11 as presented with the addition of 5.03, stating that the rate would be adjusted for lack of service, and the rate would be adjusted for lack of service changes. Yeah. This motion is debatable. Requires majority vote. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say nay. The ayes have it. The motion carries, and we will accept item number 11 with the change of
Thank you for your
5.03.
patience.
Thank you.
Of course, thank you.
Thank you. Number 12, selection of service provider response to the submittals received from the primary depository bank services request for proposals published June 20th, 2024. Mary Ann.
Mayor and council, good evening. On July 10th, we received two proposals, one from First Financial Bank, the other from Wood Forest National Bank. The evaluation matrix is attached. First Financial comes in with much higher scoring than Wood Forest. First Financial is our current depository. We're suggesting that we stay with them. Be happy to answer any questions that you might have. One of the things in their proposal, currently, as I explained to you before, our contract with them is very old, almost 20 years. We were currently getting like 0.15%. That has now been adjusted in this proposal. And the way that it works, which is a very common thing in the banking world, is they take an average, so it's kind of this, it's an 80% of the average 91-day T-bill from the previous month. It's this complicated formula that goes into it. But in the month of June, our interest rate in all funds at our local branch would have been 4.3158%. Pretty comparable to what we see at TexPool. So slightly less than what we see at TexPool. So we would definitely be maximizing our interest on those local funds as well. So
Make a motion to, what is it, would it be reestablish or
The proposal from,
to accept the proposal? Is that what it is?
Accept the proposal.
Okay. Accept the proposal from
First Financial
First Financial Bank. I'm
For
sorry, my
primary
brain's not working.
For primary depository bank service.
Would you like to go ahead and make that?
You did good.
I'll second.
All right. It's a motion and second that we approve the proposal from First Financial Bank for primary depository bank services. This motion is debatable, amendable, requires majority vote. It's open for discussion. All those in favor of accepting item number 12 for service to approve the proposal from First Financial Bank for primary depository bank services, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. The ayes have it, the motion carries, and we will accept the proposal and approve it for First Financial Bank primary depository bank services. Item number 13, approval of expenses for improvements at Memory Park. Mike?
Council, should be a pretty easy one. We did budget for this last year, $40,000 capital side for the project at the park. This is a project that we've done phase 1 and 2 on so far, around the edge of the pond with the erosion. Had a contractor come in and place, make a sackcrete bulkhead, in a sense, cap it with rock, fill it in with dirt, grass. This is the area around the deck that goes out over the water, which has eroded severely over the years. So this project will completely surround that with bulkhead and then fill it all back in with dirt and get it back to where it was originally.
Is that deck swooping? By the picture, it's like
We can attack that once it's all filled in, then we'll have the dirt there to be able to lift that back up.
So no water underneath, right?
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah, that's the way it originally was.
Okay.
So this is the same contractor that's done the other 2 projects for us. He's done great. We supplement the cost a little bit by providing the dirt ourselves. We have stockpile at the old sewer plant, so we save a little bit there. Pretty cut and dry.
And that amount that's in there, 29,900, is the amount?
Yes, ma'am. That is the
Grand
quote.
total?
Yes, ma'am. The other projects, he did it exactly for what the quote was. And it went up a little bit. The original quote was about $800 less, but we asked for a fresh quote a couple weeks ago, and it went up just a little bit. So this is current.
It's not a not to exceed, it's an amount. Yeah.
I make a motion that we approve expenses for improvements at Memory Park of $29,900.
I second.
It's been moved and seconded that we accept and approve the expenses in the amount of $29,900 at Memory Park. This motion is debatable, amendable, requires majority vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. The ayes have it, the motion carries, and we will accept the expenses for $29,900 at Memory Park. Thank you. All right. Number 14, acceptance of the lift station. Number 10, force main improvements and commencement of 1-year warranty period.
Good evening again. So this is the lift station number 10 improvements project. As a reminder, this project was completed for the Montgomery Bend development, and this project was paid for by Pulte Homes. We completed the inspection on June 18th of this year, and we have found the project to be substantially complete. We issued the punch list at that time. There were 3 items which are listed on page 161 of your packet. All 3 of those items have since been addressed, and we recommend accepting the infrastructure and beginning the 1-year warranty period.
I make a motion that we accept the lift station number 10 force main improvements and commitments of our 1-year warranty period.
It's been moved as Dan, seconded by Cheryl, that we accept the lift station 10 force main improvements and commencement of 1-year warranty period. This motion is debatable, amendable, requires majority vote. All those in favor of accepting item number 14 as presented, say aye. All those opposed, say nay. The ayes have it, the motion carries, and we will accept the Lift Station 10 Force Main improvements and commencement of one-year warranty period. Item 15 on your agenda. Discuss extending the terms of office of the mayor and city council members from 2 to 4 years.
Mayor and council members, staff has gotten together and we've just decided that we can't live without you. We need you to have longer terms. On a serious note, we've discussed the costs of elections and the rising costs thereof. And from purely a dollar and cents standpoint, outside of political issues with short terms, campaigning every other year, we think that it's best that we extend the terms to 4 years, which allows us to skip an election every year. Right now, we're on an annual election schedule. This would put us to every other year for elections.
And to be clear, this would be voted on in November and then instituted in the May 2025 election?
Well, it depends on when you want to order this election for, and I think that y'all should put some thought to that. November being a presidential election and May not being a presidential election. I think there's very valid considerations that should happen of when you would decide to put that on the ballot. But ultimately, that's up to you. It would not affect any of your terms right now. You would have to be elected back into your seats. So technically, we will have the next 2 annual elections like they occur normally. The difference being whoever's elected in 2025 will be elected into essentially a 4-year term if it goes to November, and that's what y'all decide when that would start. If obviously if it's on the ballot in May, we would have the next 3 elections.
So it's cheaper to go now versus paying for 3 more elections, is that what you're saying?
What I'm saying is that you guys should consider whether you want to put it on the November ballot.
Sure.
Or
the May
ballot, or at all. I mean, it's completely up to y'all. And the other consideration is you don't have to go to 4-year terms, you could go to 3-year terms. However, that completely defeats the purpose of skipping the election because we would still have annual elections under a 3-year term.
If we do it in November, we also have the crime district one. We have the presidential, and that's what he's saying, that we might need to get out to the public.
Yep. We talked about the marketing it correctly too. Yeah.
That, and I don't know that we can do it all.
What would we do different in November that we would do different in May, as far as communication?
Well, it would be priority, right?
It's always in May.
Yeah.
It's never in November, okay?
Yeah.
The city election.
Sure, yeah, you're right.
So if you hold it in November, you've got to get out, you've got to talk to everybody and tell them, now look, you need to come, whether they're coming or not, you need to come and vote for the city election and the crime prevention and the presidential. So I don't know that everybody would do that when they're used to coming in May.
I just see it advantageous because most people are going to be voting for the president.
You always have a bigger turnout on election,
Yeah.
which is good. The only other question would be is the priority of it, right? Where we really want to push the CCPD, we really want to prioritize that and focus our efforts on getting that passed versus splitting our efforts. Right?
On the agenda.
And we can talk about it. How soon do we have to?
You don't have to do this at all. You don't
No, I
ever
mean,
have
if
to.
we decided we wanted to do it in November, how soon do we have to have it done?
August 13th. You gotta call the election by the next meeting.
Okay, so we'd have to
Yeah,
decide.
not, so
That's
the
the
13th meeting, but you need.
If you want it on the ballot in November.
In November.
If you don't want it, if you don't want it on the ballot in November,
Then
we could call it late. We'd have to figure out what the drop dead date was to call it before the May
May
election.
election, gotcha.
So
What's the downside of of postponing it to May? Because I don't see a downside to me. It seems like you're,
My recommendation would be to postpone it until May.
really?
Yes.
Okay.
It's 61, doesn't
The reason that this is before you is in case you made the decision that you wanted it on the November ballot, we could do that. If I were mayor, if I were council member, I would be wanting that on the May ballot.
Do we need to, we don't need a public hearing or anything for this, like we do other things that gotta go on the,
Nope.
Yes,
The vote would be the,
I mean, we have to do it for the CCPD?
yeah, that's a
Public
board
hearing.
though. This is just extending our terms.
You're
I just make
levying a tax- You're levying a tax for that district.
We're not spending, well, we are spending money, I guess.
Gotcha.
We're saving money.
That's a low turnout election,
Which one, May?
the May.
Yeah, it is, that's, the benefit of November would be more turnout.
Right.
I was just thinking about the May, but you're gonna have the election in May anyway. so-
Yeah, we have to have one either way. We'll have to have
Unless
two
somebody
more.
runs,
We have to have two
just like
more,
what we have
correct?
now. That's what we just had.
well, yeah,
What happens if we don't have a
if
May
the
election?
election is held in May, for this item, if this is on the ballot, that would be two more after the 2025. So 6, 7, 28 would be, or 29 would be that gap. So we'd skip over 28.
So it would take us, well, and the price has gone up every
If
year.
my math is correct. It's been a long time since I was a mayor.
And we just went through an election cycle where the people that signed up were the people that got it. What if that happens in May? Then we're pushing it out again.
Yeah,
There won't be an
and
election in May.
that's true, but you're also not spending money on an election
Yeah.
if nobody, if nobody
Right.
opposes.
Right.
So, we're discussing it. What is your opinion, Carol? What do you want?
May,
May?
and I would approve going to the 4 years.
Okay.
It says changing it from
2 to
2
4.
to 4.
Yeah.
I'm okay changing it to 4, but not in November.
Okay. Stan, you have an opinion?
Whatever y'all want.
Yeah, I'm open to, it doesn't make a difference to me.
And this is not an action item. We wanted to put this in front of you so that we could gauge what you wanted, whether we needed to add this to your election order next month for the CCPD, or hold on to it until we get closer to the May election. So if council can give us some guidance, if you want to see this in August, or if you want to see this, for the November election, if you want to see it for November or the May.
Okay.
Postpone
Are y'all
to
good?
August 9th.
Well, that's the thing, if you want it in November, sir, we have to vote on it
Yeah.
next week.
It's in August, yeah, the next meeting, yeah.
August, the
So
next.
we need to discuss it further. This is our opportunity.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So, what do you want to do?
I mean, it's up for y'all to discuss. I mean, I personally think November, they're already voting on a city item anyway, and I
We would
don't
get
have a
more
problem with it.
turnout.
We'd get more turnout too. That's my opinion, I think, it would be November.
All right, so if you put it on the November ballot, you're asking the public to change it to the 4 years.
Yes, ma'am.
You're not asking them to vote for me,
No.
Correct.
No.
Right.
and in November.
Correct. So,
But in May, you're asking them to vote for me because my position's up.
correct.
And you're asking them to change it to 4 years.
If
Yes.
you don't put it on the November ballot,
Right.
and you decided to put it on the May ballot, then you would both be up at the same time, and you
Right.
would be voted into a four-year term.
For your term.
Yes.
Depending on how the proposition's working.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you can, if you vote in November election.
Right.
And you want it to take effect in the May, so Carol's term expires in 2025 May. If you
Right.
want her 4-year term to take effect then, you need to word the proposition that way, which we can handle, we just need direction from council.
I don't want an election in November.
No, the election wouldn't be in November. It would still be in May. It'd be to vote on the proposition, that's it.
What's going to be on the ballot, in November or in May? That's the question.
Carol, you understand? No, the election wouldn't be in May. The proposition would
The
be.
proposition for
I mean, the
4-year
election would be in
terms, yeah.
May still. Nothing would change as far as your, a normal election.
Regardless of what happens,
Yeah.
your seat will still be up for election in May. This is,
For November. Thank
Whoever they
you.
vote
Yeah.
for in May is.
The election date wouldn't change, just the prop date has to be November.
No.
Carol, Sheriff,
Y'all decide.
Don't care.
I'm no for it.
Don't care.
November?
November.
I think we get a better turnout in November, and that's kind of what I'm looking for. I don't want any, oh, well, I didn't know, I would have never
Well,
voted
there's
for it.
other city
Yeah.
stuff on there, so if you,
Well, they're coming
if you're
for the
incentivized
presidential
for
election.
one, right, if you're incentivized for one, it'll be incentivized for the second one too. And with the presidential.
It's the
not
presidential
100%.
election that's gonna
That's really the
draw,
driver,
right?
yeah.
So, I'd rather have more people vote on it than less, so.
okay, we'll
November.
add that on to the,
November.
to the election order for your next regular meeting.
Okay.
I'm not sure.
Okay. All right. Anything else on number 15?
Nope.
Okay. Number 16, discussion on the consistent power outages that occur behind the commercial strip on South 105, just west of 2854, Chick-fil-A to McCoy's.
Thank you, Mayor. This is a discussion item, and I'm asking for your help. We need to come up with a strategy for this one. The power consistently goes out in that little commercial district from 2854 all the way up to McCoy's. Maybe even McCoy's, I don't know. Joe Pietrowski, who's here tonight, he's the owner of Chick-fil-A, contacted me probably about 6 months ago.
Yeah, I think around December.
So we met, went out there and looked at it, had a couple meetings, Teams meetings, phone calls with Energy, talking about the issues. Joe had his team on there, we spent some time with them. So we've contacted Energy quite a few times, and to no avail. They're not giving us any kind of schedule. I think what they said was 2025 before they could get out there. The issue is, we believe the issue is the trees in the back that are getting power. I'm pretty confident about that. In fact, I think Energy's pretty confident about that.
Yeah, I mean, if I may.
Could you go to the podium?
Yes, please
Yeah,
come up.
thanks.
Yeah, I'm glad Joe's here.
Yes.
Some firsthand testimony.
Howdy, my name is Joseph Pietrowski, owner of Chick-fil-A. I also live in Montgomery, off of Mill Route Road, 19037 Mill Route Road. So, since of June of last year, our power has gone out at our store about 13 times.
How many times?
13? Since May of this year, we've lost, calculated on the way home from Dallas today, we've lost about 6 to 7 business days. Now, I understand with Beryl coming through, the hurricane coming through, there's, those circumstances there, but you tend not to trust the power company because the 10 previous months I've lost power. And I know, Mayor, I've texted you before, right?
Yep.
And about all this. So I think I told Mr. Palmer, I think it was around December, because we lost power on Christmas Eve. There was no rain. And he's like, and I think he was genuine. I think you're genuinely shocked. Like, you're genuinely surprised it happened that much. And so ever since then, he's been very good about trying to communicate with me and trying to get to the bottom of it. But to his point, though, Entergy is the only monster out here. There's no competition. They can kind of do what they want, is what I've learned. At my house, my residents I have in the South, they've been great. Entergy, not so much. I need help. I don't know what else to do. And I know it's not just me, but I'm the business owner here in Montgomery. Maybe some of those other business owners along that strip don't live in Montgomery. Maybe they don't know. But the costs associated with shutting down, when you don't know that you're going to have to shut down, right? I have my labor expense. I also have, I think in December last year, I ended up spending about $5,000 on our equipment because of the power. Our machines are not designed for the power to go off like that. There's a shutdown process. I think because of Beryl, I'm probably going to have to pay another $3,000. And then we were out of business for 4 days. I'm losing income, but my people are losing income. So I've decided to pay my people their scheduled hours. That was just the right thing to do. But, I mean, there are expenses with that. And it's just getting disconcerting. I mean, people's faces, they're just very discouraged because the power just goes out all the time. Power went out last Thursday. I don't know, Gary, I don't know if you knew that.
Yeah, when I drove through, I saw that it was out and it's sunny.
Yeah, so power went out last Thursday. I think there was some rain that blew through maybe in the morning. I contacted Entergy Corinne. Said, yeah, you'll be up by 10 a.m. It's like, okay, so because we're gonna be up by 10 a.m., that means we want to try to open by noon. You gotta bring my people in, right? And well, we weren't up by noon. We weren't up by 2. Power came on at 4. I think we opened it for business around 6. So it's just disconcerting. I only carry so much, weight. Gary's been great, like I said, but I don't know what can be done. I think I just wanted to let y'all know that. I don't think there's anybody from Entergy here.
So
Have you filed a complaint with the PUC?
Gary asked me to do that, and I just have not done that. But I figured City Point probably is in the crosshairs of a lot of people right now, so it's going to maybe give us.
There's a two-pronged process there. There's an informal complaint process, which they'll kind of look into it with the company, Entergy, the PUC will, and then there's actually a formal complaint process, which is very similar to like a court proceeding. But those are your two kind of options there.
And to Gary's point too, it is the vegetation, it is the trees behind it. They told me, remember Rashad, he said they're going to do a clearing cut at the end of June. There's no cut whatsoever. So I guess I would love some help to I want them to do what they say they're going to do.
Absolutely.
And they're not doing it. And so they said they're going to do a reliability project. They had one scheduled for 2025. They're going to try to schedule it for the end of 2024. I asked for details. They don't know the details. So I don't know what their plan is. And I'm just a business owner with 150 employees. I'm doing trying to run a business, and I know Gary's getting frustrated as well.
So initially, I know when you were having a lot of somebody sneeze and were going out.
Yeah.
And the power was routed this way, and we got it routed for Walden, so it's quick. They found the one pole that would stand up during sunshine, and a slight wind breeze would come and it would pull it over, and they finally found where it was just connecting. Do you think that's the same thing that's happening here, or is it
always something though, right? So like, remember one time a car hit a transformer on Walden?
Yes.
I think lightning hit the pole over here.
We had one on
right over
49,
here.
yeah.
There's always something, but lately though, it's been the vegetation behind. That's what I've been told by Corinne or Entergy Contact. That's the trees behind that shopping center. And
but the branches are on the lines? Is the branches on the lines? Like, what does that mean?
They don't disclose. So and I don't ask. So I probably could ask, but it's branches on the line. They just say the problem is vegetation. They say they're going to do a cut at the end of June. That has not happened. I would love somebody just to kind of keep them accountable.
Sure.
And
our property,
they're well aware.
Is our property back there? How much of that property is ours?
Public Works property?
There's an electrical easement that's right behind the sewer plant.
Yeah.
But they're behind us.
Okay.
So there's actually a small strip of woods, and then there's a clearing for the electrical easement.
Okay.
I can add a little bit here that may help somebody feel a little better. When the hurricane rolled through and all the power went out, one of the first things they did was they showed up with that big machine on tracks with a saw blade. We've all seen it on the side of the road. They did make a trip back through that easement to make the repairs. And then when the power went out on Thursday, I actually caught one of the energy guys in the cul-de-sac. I watched the sparks from my office. I saw the sparks happen. So I found the energy guy, showed him where the problem was. I ended up walking that whole easement that day. You can tell where they just recently did clear right after the hurricane. They were making some cuts to make, to get it out of the way, but there was still a couple of spots that needed to be trimmed back. And then late this afternoon, 4 o'clock or so, there was a crew from ABC Tree Clearing over there with that machine again.
It's great. That's great to hear.
They're probably getting back on that.
So do you think that they're at 100% now versus 80% or wherever? You said there was still some stuff?
I walked that easement from the cul cul-de-sac all the way to the creek.
Yeah.
And I only saw one spot that was close to the line, and that's where the line had actually fell. So what happened that day was the line fell off of the crossarm. This is what the energy guy told me. The line fell off of the crossarm and swung into the other lines, and that's what caused it. They had it fixed by that point, but just walking it, you could tell that they had just cleared. There were shavings everywhere. But hopefully what they're doing over there today, hopefully they're going back in that clear. I don't know that for certain, but they were unloading in the cul-de-sac, and that's the only easement they have back there.
Absolutely.
One of the things that my Entergy contact, she said kind of reliability project, they want to move it from the vegetation to 105. I don't know what that would look like. But I think that's the reliability project area that she's talking about. So I need to probably email her, copy you on it, and see what happens, see what she replies.
Are we assuming that's underground? Because I don't know that we want poles going down 105.
That's the thing too.
Yeah, it'd be great if they could put it around.
Yeah, because
That's $1 million a mile.
I know.
They're not gonna volunteer to put it underground.
Well, that's gonna look like not good.
Yeah, so, yeah, unfortunately, what we have with our electrical companies in this area, it's not so much in Houston, but what the state calls them limited monopolies or regional monopolies, right? Energy has our district or our area, and then literally 149 and its Mid-South has another limited monopoly or regional monopoly. I've also wrote letters to the POC myself on some, I guess you would call it changes that Entergy made to their solar panel policies, things like that, where it's basically they steal. But they do answer very quickly.
That's good.
POC answered very, very quickly. And they get back to you, they contact, they give you results and who they talked to and what the results were, and they do, not saying you're gonna like the results, but they do answer very quickly. Yeah, because
And I think you should get the other businesses, because you're not the only one affected.
No.
I'm surprised none of the other business managers are here if they're having that kind of an issue. I think you'll be more effective, going to the PUC if you have somebody with you. If you get these other businesses need to join with you, and, I just think you'll have more weight.
I think.
What about your home office? I mean, did you ever tell them that you're having this issue?
Oh yeah, I mean there's a national contact we have with Entergy. I'm still waiting to hear back from her. I think Gary is too, and I mean it's just going to be a slow process. But I think somebody said it earlier, right? We're growing. I think we've got another shop going in next to Lupe's, and I think we have HEB going. I mean, they're not going to put up with this.
Right.
So something's going to have to give. Something's going to have to change.
So my question, Caleb, I know we have a contract with Entergy for services for our area, whatever. Is there anything in a clause in there for reliability?
I'm sure there is, but I'm not sure we have standing. The person that's being affected, this is kind of on the property owner, whoever's being supplied the power, they have standing to kind of go to the PUC. They have more of a standing there to kind of file a complaint and then file a formal complaint. There's actually a procedural statute that lays out the process on how you file complaints. And it doesn't sound like that's been done yet.
Right.
So what is it that you really would like the city to do?
I think just keeping Entergy accountable to the reliability project that they said that they're going to do. Gary, do you have anything else to?
Yeah, I mean, my recommendation, if you guys are open to it, would be to bring a resolution next week, or next council meeting. We'll populate all the whereases and everything, and representing the businesses out there. We send that to the PUC leadership. Maybe concurrently, you could file that complaint. And I'll go out and talk to Starbucks and Bay and all those folks.
So if we could get signatures of those business owners, in support of the complaint, that would be wonderful.
Yeah.
I would love to stay in lockstep with you.
I didn't know about the meeting. I didn't know about this agenda item until Mr. Gary, I think, notified me yesterday, and I was in Dallas. So it could be, I guarantee they probably want to say something, they probably just didn't know the agenda.
Yeah, no, I understand. No problem.
But I should say we can make them aware of that so that they can come, because I truly believe that there is no utilities companies that are very,
Oh, no. No, the electric companies, they do what
they do
they have
exactly
to
what
do.
they want to.
Well, I hear Mid-South does a phenomenal job.
I
Here,
didn't
there's
go to
there's very
Mid-South.
few times that they get complaints.
So I'll just continue to work with Gary and,
I'll give you a
offline. Okay. Well, thank you, council, appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for coming.
I'll bring that resolution back at the next meeting.
Okay. Departmental reports, number 17, Public Works, June 2024 report.
Right. Y'all have the report in front of you. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have on it.
Crane cabin, is that roof flew off, right?
Yeah.
From the- Yeah. Is it still off? I saw, that's when I saw it was off. Yeah.
The blacksmith shop came
The
off.
blacksmith, okay.
Yep.
I saw it.
Yeah. Yeah, we're still waiting on an adjuster to tell us what we can do with
Okay.
that.
We don't have to go through Sam Houston
No.
University for that or the historical? Okay.
You're not having any power outages, are you?
We're on the same line.
No?
Yeah, we're just under full generator
Okay.
backup because of the sewer plant.
All right, that's what
But yeah, we're on the exact same, both power outages, we actually watched, during the hurricane, we saw the tree, the whole top half of that tree fall and land on the line when that would happen. So, yeah, we front row seat for it.
All right, I guess you're good.
I'm gonna fill in for the next one too.
Okay. 18 utility operations report.
Yeah, so Philip's on vacation. He had asked Brian Lucas to fill in, but with the storm, I talked to Brian and said, hey, don't worry about it. I'll fill in for you tonight. Just handle what you got out in the field. So I don't have their report in front of me. I didn't find this out until I was already in the field dealing with the 1097 issue. But I'd be happy to take any questions and follow up with you. I know accountability was good. I do remember it was 94 point some odd. So
good.
I have the report in front of me.
Ask away.
Good.
No, I don't have any questions.
Yeah, everything was good on there. We didn't have
Yeah, I
any.
feel like I see them around all the time and
They are,
they're
yeah.
doing the, yeah.
Yeah, they're doing
it's
good.
It's
Really, really happy with it.
very different than what we had before.
Yep, really happy with it.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Number 19, city engineer, June 2024 report.
All right, so y'all have our report in front of you. So as usual, I will hit the kind of high button items. So first one on here is water plant number 2 improvements. Those contracts were actually executed last night. So we sent them to your attorney for review, and he was in agreement with the terms of the contract. So those were executed last night. We are scheduling a pre-construction meeting for next week to get that project going. Jumping down to item number 3, the 1097 sanitary sewer rehabilitation. The plans are essentially complete. We are working to obtain an easement from the property owner. They have been responsive. We're just waiting on the documents to come back from them. Let's see, we discussed lift station 10 force main improvements. That was the earlier agenda item from this meeting. Going on to the next page, item 7 is the Old Clarenceville force main extension. This project, we did receive pay estimate number 3 in the amount of $15,143. The project is 60% complete by time and 81% complete by value as of the date of the pay estimate. The last piece of the project that they need to complete is the bore underneath the railroad. This was originally scheduled for July 8th, and that was the day that Beryl came through. So that has been rescheduled to July 28th. So this will be done on Saturday, Sunday, excuse me. BNSF has been made aware, and they'll have their inspectors on site as well. Jumping all the way down to the bottom of the page, item number 11, the Buffalo Springs Drive Road reconstruction. We did have pay estimate number 2 in the amount of $24,178.28. The contractor is back on track on their schedule. I know there was a little bit of time where it appeared that they had demobilized. We were just working through some quantities with them. They are back at it and working on schedule as well. So they're still expected to be completed in early September, which is still in line with our agreement with Home Depot.
Random question, is there a sign gonna go in the middle of that road in that island and move from where it is?
The Home Depot sign?
Mm-hmm.
It will not go in the island.
Okay. Looked like that's what they were, okay, thanks.
No, what is going in the island, so they put in sleeves for irrigation line. So if that island is vegetated,
Okay.
we can slide irrigation lines in there
Okay, that's what it
and
was.
maintain it.
Okay, thanks.
Going to the next page, item 12, the signal for this project. So they have poured the foundations for the signals. The mast arms are on their way. The contractor already has the rest of the materials. A couple of things that we are waiting on. One is power from Entergy. So not to beat the dead horse, but we are also having trouble with Entergy getting a response from them in an accurate timeline on when the signal will have power. The caveat is that if the signal doesn't have power, Home Depot doesn't have power. So we have some strength with us, and Home Depot is also pushing on Entergy to try to get permanent power to both locations. As of today, we have not been able to get a firm delivery date on power for the signal or Home Depot. The other challenge that we're working through is TxDOT reviewing that traffic signal warrant analysis and approving it. They've come back with some very minor comments. We followed up again today, and we have not yet received a response on where that stands. Jumping down to the bottom in that plat reviews section, one thing I want to point out is the Redbird Meadows Phase 1A final plats. This is for sections 1, 2, and 3. We received the hard copies in our office, and those go to planning and zoning in next 2 weeks. Going to the next page, section 3 is that ongoing construction items A, B, and I apologize for that typo, the second A, all of the Montgomery Bend items. We held our inspection on July 16th and 17th for both sections, and they are working on addressing punch list items so that we can accept the infrastructure and then begin setting water meters out there. And then we did have a pre-construction meeting with Redbird Meadows back in June, and they are mobilizing slowly but surely, but they are getting going out there. Another item that came up after this report was written was Hills of Town Creek Section 5 is expecting to get started later this month or early next month, I believe. Their contractor reached out to us to get on the schedule for inspections. Jumping down to the TxDOT section, the 1097 and Atkins Creek drainage improvements. So we know the issues going on at 1097. So we met with them at we met with the Houston District Engineer, Eliza Paul, on June 27th to discuss the issues with her. So we've elevated it out of the Montgomery area office and up to the Houston District office and to get their attention. She was very responsive. It was a very productive meeting. We're sending her a bunch of additional information, drone footage, photos from the years, anything and everything related to it, as it relates to 1097 and protecting the road.
Might consider new ones after tonight.
Yep. We'll be sending her some updated footage as well.
What minor improvements, what are they talking about?
So the minor improvements, really what they're able to do is kind of on-the-fly repairs. So that means putting riprap down in the bottom and putting flowable fill over it to try to stabilize the riprap. It's not a perfect solution, and nobody is saying that it's permanent. It's more of a Band-Aid solution until they can acquire the right-of-way for their more permanent solution. The latest update that I've seen on that is that an offer has been made to the property owner, and they're waiting on that information to come back.
Is there a timeline in which he needs to respond by?
It's a very large document, I will admit, so I didn't read all the way through it and see if there was a timeline attached to it.
Tonight on the way, and something I mentioned to Mike too, so if you look at Summit Park, to the right is that 1097 drainage issue. To the left of there's another bridge. And tonight it was flowing pretty heavy, and it's starting to erode on the right-hand side. So I don't know if we can get TxDOT to look at both of those at the same time and kind of get ahead of that one.
TxDOT is aware of that one as well. That's actually where the sewer line relocation project is. So we've met on site with TxDOT for that one as well. They're doing the same thing, riprap and flowable fill, until they can get a more permanent solution going.
When did you meet with TxDOT on that project?
So we've met with them multiple times on site.
But it wasn't today?
No, ma'am, I believe Mike was on site with TxDOT this evening, specifically at Atkins Creek and 1097. Other TxDOT items is item B on there, the access management project going from Grimes County line to Shepherd. We had a 90% utility locates meeting with them last week to discuss any utility relocations that need to be done. So these were discussed last night during your budget meeting, the projects that might need to happen for the relocation project. We are also meeting with them and their engineers weekly to stay updated on this and keep in good contact with them. And that is the last of the major items of my report. If y'all have any other questions, I'm happy to answer them.
So the MISD fuel station, is that their own fuel? Because
Yes, so that's at the bus barn.
Okay.
They're doing an expansion out there, and I just reviewed those plans today, and we should be able to have them back out tomorrow.
I spoke to MISD PD, and they were very kind to let us borrow some gasoline during everything, and maybe it's something we should consider having our own. But yeah, that was very nice of them. I'm glad they were available. Okay, thanks.
One question, the property that they're finishing next to McCoy, or next to the oil change place, that is Sherwin-Williams?
That's Sherwin-Williams.
Just making sure.
And if you'll ever have any questions on the developments going on in the city, I know I don't point it out every month, but we do provide this map.
Yeah.
Shows everything going on in the city and the status of the development as far as all of that is concerned.
It's quite colorful.
There's a lot going on in the city.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Item 20, PD and CE June 2024 report.
Good evening, family, good evening, council. You've got the report in front of you. Is there anything that you have any questions about? I just got an update from Sergeant Byer, who's out. He said TxDOT has decided to completely close 1097 between Summit Park and Terry Vista. So
To do what?
They closed it.
Completely closed.
There's washed
Yes,
out underneath. It's about the
Summit
cave.
Park and where?
I know, I saw the picture, but
Summit?
so
Terry Vista.
what are they doing? Detouring them around?
we turned everybody
What are they
around. We just took both ends and turned everyone back around because there was some 18-wheelers coming as well. And we just weren't sure if that west side was going to be safe enough to let anybody cross. So
Right.
without us making that decision, we just didn't let anybody cross. TxDOT got on location and they started to look at it and they thought it was pretty bad. So looks like they've made a decision to close it completely.
Do they have a time frame that it's going to be closed?
No, ma'am. No, ma'am.
I was talking to Commissioner Walker on the way here, and he said, you know, sir, we've got rain all this week and potentially next week, and then
Yeah.
then you have to let it dry out and figure out what to do, and it might be months.
Yeah, Thursday.
Which is going to be hurtful
Could be a while.
before
I
school
was
starts.
just texting the TxDOT guy that was on site. He was saying that they're gonna close it down for the night, bring a contractor in the morning to create a game plan.
Okay, good.
For a temporary.
Will you keep us updated on that? That would just be helpful since my phone's been blowing up.
Yeah, there's gonna be a lot of that.
Yeah, you're going to get a lot of calls.
Well, I mean, it's safe than sorry, right? But it's, but this is the scariest school starting in
Yeah.
a month, 6
3
weeks or whatever, yeah. And so, 3 weeks, yeah.
Well, he said that the TxDOT guy just told me that it actually ended up undermining even more from when we were there, so, yeah. He said he was hoping to keep one lane open, but when it kept going, he just had to shut it down.
Too dangerous.
Yeah. Not a good situation.
Questions? Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Court.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. You have the court report in front of you. The collections for citations were $171 for June, and revenue was $31,498.12. Does anyone have any questions for the court?
The judge, our judge was went to the Supreme Court as a clerk, right? He's back?
Yes, he's.
How did that go? Everything,
Yes, our.
good experience?
I haven't spoken with him, but the judge has stood in for him, did a phenomenal job that night at court. Everything went smooth. The prosecutors really loved her, and we didn't have not one hiccup, so we did really good on that night.
Cool.
So he will be back on the 8th for court.
Awesome.
Thank you, guys and ladies.
Before we move forward, Chief, on the CE of the nature of the calls for code enforcement, I'm having some calls from some residents that are concerned about other residents that have a lot of trash, a lot of items in their yard. And I've told them that we've kind of taken the stance, if we make one do it, we gotta make all do it, and then we gotta hold all their, and anyway, but it's becoming, I think, a bigger issue. Is there, where it's now it's dangerous. So is there, I don't know, I mean, I don't know what to do. Like, I can continue to, I'll be reporting it to you, but it looks like there potentially needs some change because it's going to be dangerous.
And that's something that I think she needs to start concentrating on. When she first came here, she started looking at those spots, going out. And part of the deal is helping people understand that you need to clean this up. How can we help you clean it up? But it seems like it's just getting more and more. I heard him talking about it last week in the MEDC meeting as well, about people with a lot of
debris
things in their yard, debris in their yard. So yeah, we can, we'll meet with her about that in the morning and then start looking at a plan of attack, and that may be start hanging some fines on some people.
So I was,
if that's it, then we'll just have to do that.
I talked to another city council person in another city, and I said, what do you do? And they said, rack up the fines. I mean, you got to get it. It's a health problem.
Sometimes
like
you only get
big tree.
people.
I mean, you just got to do it.
Sometimes you only get their attention with
it. It helps the city. It helps the neighbors. It helps everybody.
Yeah.
The taxpayer.
Okay.
Did you want to speak to it?
We'll talk about that.
Yeah. Come on. I saw you.
Good evening, Code Enforcement Officer Tilly. I'm currently working on 3 properties. I have communication with the 3 properties. I want to be able to work with these properties, but finding them doesn't always fix the problem. It just continues to find them. So what I'm looking for is hopefully some help from MEDC. I know that Dave had mentioned that there is maybe some funds that are available to help people. Maybe if we can get a dumpster at some of the locations and help them that way.
Just blight removal?
I'm sorry.
Blight removal?
Yeah.
Yes, black removal. Yeah, so that was brought up in our MEDC meeting this month, that we would be willing to do that, to assist.
Yes, yes.
Okay, but so what happens when we assist and then it presents itself again?
We would have to.
But we would hopefully get in front of it before it's become this mound that some of these houses
Yes,
are.
it's been a few years that 3 of these, or actually 2 of the properties that I'm currently working on, that has continued this way.
Yeah, I appreciate the help, but I'm just making sure it maintains.
Right. Well, and
Because that's wasted
a lot of
dollars
that
if it doesn't maintain.
is social, right? We have to approach them from a social standpoint.
Yes, a lot of people think that it is their livelihood, that we would be taking their livelihood away by removing any kind of, what we would consider debris, they consider as their treasure.
Absolutely.
It's their livelihood. That's what they do, they just continue to collect it.
I understand.
So it isn't as easy as putting up a fence so that no one sees it, because it's still there. But if we could find a means, maybe financial assistance, to try and at least organize it a little bit.
And there's their adjacent property with that, there's a mobile home on there, and I think that's vacant, and it's just, it's very.
Well, some of those
Is the
citizens.
person agreeable to having some of their treasures removed?
No, that's been the issue.
Yeah.
Well, that's like some of their livelihood. I mean, I know one citizen in particular, he has to put his stuff in the front yard because his backyard floods all the time. He's got drainage issues. He can't operate in his backyard or put anything back there, and I'm sure he buys and sells junk stuff, but he has to put it in the front yard, and I'm sure it's an eyesore to some people, but it's a livelihood to him.
Doesn't mean it's right.
Right. So what are you gonna do?
It is, and it's a balancing act, right? Because you don't want to come down and scream and yell, but at the same time, it's like, but there has to be some kind of
It might help
cleansing.
to start talking about a building standards commission.
A what?
Building
Standards.
Standards Commission. It's in the ordinance that the council can revive or the commission put them together. Fire marshal, police department, code enforcement. I know we don't have health inspector, but someone with environmental health can start taking a look at the safety requirements in accessing a home that might be inundated in their front yard and stuff. I know that one of the properties, they kind of have a pathway. Don't know if it would be big enough for a stretcher, but again, it would be something that the fire marshal would take a look at. I could look at everything on the exterior of the property. I can't do what the building inspector is able to do on the interior of the property and the condition of the actual property that they're living in, but that might help too. Right now, I'm trying to talk to the people who own the properties that, yes, it doesn't look very appealing and can be a health hazard, but they do continually say, it's my property, this is my livelihood, this is how I make a living. You know, the city can't come and take it away. And I would like to do it without forcing them, because you could probably solve the problem by getting a warrant and clearing it out, but does that solve it on a long-term basis? Because it'll come back in. It'll fill up again. And will the fines help? We can continue to fine and fine and fine, but it doesn't clean up the property.
I have one more question for you. I've got a call this week, I think it was a Monday. The church on 149, the neighbors by in the back, the noise is really loud, like loud. Apparently now on the other side of Anna Springs, those people can hear it. Any one of your noise ordinances from, noise calls from that? So it's on your, okay.
I've advised them to contact the non-emergency line from the sheriff's office so that we can get an officer out there. Unless it's between the hours of 8 to 5, I could check it and use my sound meter. But when it's on the weekends and after hours, we do have a couple of sound meters, and we could get an officer out there.
I live right there, I'm here
It's like a
down the
decibel.
Yeah, right there at the China Chapel. They're in there practicing. And
Is it China Chapel or
it's the new one, Community Church.
Right, but
they're in there.
I can see it from my house and I don't hear anything.
Yeah, but everybody that's on there, and then apparently there's people across the street. I got calls this week where they're saying they can hear it and it's loud and it's getting louder. And I suggested go to the church, talk to the preacher, and just see what you can do. I mean, I don't know what you can do. Maybe more fortification of the walls, noise absorbing. I don't know, and I don't know what the decimal is, but I just know that it was there. It was a nuisance, and now it's becoming even more a nuisance. And I didn't know who they should call when you're, because it's not happening when you're on duty.
Yes, if they could call the non-emergency line and we could get an officer to investigate on it. Because there are penal code regulations regarding this noise ordinance, and we do have our own regulations. But in the penal code, it has to be something that comes from the police officer, and it's 85 decibels at the property line.
I mean, like loud. That's what I was told. Wonder, on the weekend, I think, or maybe it's at night. Okay. Through with this tilling, I think it's, I don't know, I'm just telling you.
Yes,
Sorry, yes, I apologize. Okay, that's, thank you, ma'am, appreciate it. All right, next is finance, number 22 on your agenda.
All right. You'll see that there is not a sales tax report in this packet. The data from the comptroller's office was not available until yesterday. Along those lines, what we've normally brought you in that sales tax report does not correspond with all of the other reports that you get. So standing in front of you tonight, I would give you all of your June reports and then give you a July sales tax report. So I would like to next month bring you your July reports and your July sales tax report so that it all corresponds.
Sounds reasonable.
Yeah, very much so. I mean, it's hard to match up and it's off different months, right?
Right. One thing that I will point out on here, if you comb through the detail, you will see that we have had more in the expense line for trash service than what we have had in the revenue line. And as I combed through our invoices from Waste Management, we discovered that we had been being charged separately for a service that is actually all-inclusive. So we were actually being charged separately for recycling. And that had been going on since the start of the contract.
17 years
Came to
ago?
light.
Which is
Yeah, no, just
2 years ago.
2 years ago,
Yeah.
okay, got it.
from last year. It came to light when we were looking at this agreement and what was included. So we currently have a credit with Waste Management of $98,000. I have asked for that to be a check to see if we can get that refunded in this fiscal year. If not, it's a credit, it'll be fine. Cash flow, it's not ultimately worried about it. We'll do entries to make it, reflect appropriately. But if you look at that line, you'll say, wait, why are we spending more than we're bringing in? That's why. Other than that, is there any questions?
Thank you. All right. All right, council on the departmental reports, what's your pleasure?
I make a motion to accept all departmental reports as presented.
Second.
Arm wrestle. Okay. All right, it's been motioned by Casey, second by Stan to accept the departmental reports as presented. This motion is debatable, amendable, requires majority vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. The ayes have it, the motion carries, and we will accept departmental reports as presented. I heard Carol this time. All right, council inquiry, which, for the record, we've changed this to where it comes up before executive session, so no one has to stay during executive session. Thank you, Mr. Green, for making that change.
I don't have any inquiries at this time.
What happened?
Carol, you got any?
No, I usually would remember them in executive session.
Right.
I'm just going to give a few updates, I guess, and can I do that here, or should I wait till after that? About debris pickups and what we learned of the Texas downtown thing in Navasota last Friday and all of that.
My recommendations, you have all that now, and then we can do our
Okay,
executive session.
great. All right. I went to Commissioner's Court today and found out that there is a debris pickup for the city, which the county is doing, and it's, you just put the debris in your yard, like by the road, and they will at some point come pick it up. They're doing the whole county, so it's probably going to be maybe a week or two, he said, but this is huge. And Mike, he said that if there's anything on the city properties, just take it up to 149 to the ballpark and they'll dispose of it, so we don't have to do that. I wasn't aware of this, but great service. Yeah, yes. Yes, exactly. I know. I was like, now I think everything's cleared. But just a FYI, if there is any, and so please make sure that your constituents and who you talk to.
And they were going to pick it up?
No, they're doing parts and pieces, but he said, they're getting more trucks. Like I think they've got 36 trucks. They're trying to get 54 trucks. So they're trying to get it going, but we're going to have debris on the roads for a little while, but at least they're going to come and pick it up. So I think that's wonderful. Red Cross here closed down on Saturday, which was great. By the way, I made sure Mr. Millsaps knew that we did not know anything about it, and so there'll be a change. And then, the 1097 bridge closing, and then I've had quite a few residents talk about the flag at Simmons Bank, and I contacted them today, and they're going to be changing that out. Wanted to know if we knew of anywhere that he could get flags resewn. Flag Hospital, I don't know of any of that, but if you do, let me know.
To recycle?
Well, he said to to upcycle them. I'm not sure, but I didn't know of any of them, and I don't.
We just have flag
Boy Scouts, okay.
in front of jails.
I think he wants to mend it,
Yes.
is what I understand.
He wants to refurbish it.
Yeah, the refurbish it, not do away with it.
Yes.
And
I'm sure it's expensive.
it is. It's
get with
$350 a
the-
flag,
I would get with
and
the
they've gone
bid
through
maybe.
2 since March. And I'm like,
Yeah.
well, you should always take them down when you know there's bad weather. We don't have to have it flying during hurricane weather or
Yeah, that flag's beyond me.
It is, it is.
VFW or American Legion, that's where I would go.
But he wants to rehabilitate, not
Right.
turn it, okay, all right.
I mean, if anybody's gonna have resources for it, it would be one of those two.
Okay, all right. And last week, we went to the downtown, Texas downtown, Carol, Sarah, and Shara, and heard about Navasota, heard more about Brian, and I'll tell you, given their timelines and what they're doing, we're in line, which I was like, okay. It took Brian 10 years to get anything off the ground, but they had some great slides on timelines and what we should be doing, and I'd like to share that with you, Gary, and then you can push them all out. There was, they've done some fantastic things, and there's some great ideas in there too. So without having to go through all of that, let's. I'd like to get some of this to you, and then you can put it in a packet, and we can talk about it another time. All right, great. That's all I have. Next item on the agenda is executive session 23, section 551.071, consultation with attorney, discuss town hydrology enforcement options with city attorney. 24, section 551.072, deliberations regarding real property, the sale of 213 Prairie Street. It is 8:41, and we will head into executive session. I hear you, Casey. is 9:21 and we are back into regular session.
To the twilight zone.
Yeah. Right, 9:21. So is there anything, any motion?
I make a motion to adjourn this meeting.
No, 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 no. We had to do this. Darn, I didn't second it.
I make a motion to move forward with section 551-071,
Discussion.
the discussion.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's been, okay, second, third?
Second it.
Okay, it's been moved by Casey, seconded by Cheryl, that we move forward with the discussion regarding section 551.071. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. The ayes have it, motion carries, and we will do that. All right, with that, we are looking for a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion to adjourn.
I second.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. The ayes have it. See you later.
Kathy, thanks for hanging in.
Thank you.